301 laps in front of him. We are racing in New England.
Chase Elliott drove it in deep, slid up all the way to the third lane, but was able to turn back down the hill. That's going to make him easily clear in the lead, side by side behind with Blaney and Bell.
Aggressive move there by Josh Berry, but a little precipitation already on the camera that we're seeing.
Yeah, Josh Berry got a big run on the 22 of Logano. Joe to his inside, but now can he make that pass? He figured he couldn't, so he falls in behind the 22.
Blaney continuing to hug that white line.
You just see how much work it is on the bottom as we're on board Joey Logano on the Hunt Brothers Pizza onboard camera. He's going to decide to follow Chastain through.
No pressure behind.
And you would think at most short tracks, you know, with this type of corner, the 12 car would be in the premier lane, but he's not. You see cars passing him on the outside. There's a little more banking higher up on the groove. That bottom groove has the least amount of banking, so he just wasn't able to get his car to work there.
Jeff, you or I were out on the pace car a couple days ago. When you say the least amount of banking, it feels flat, zero. I know it says it has 2 degrees. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like there's no banking at all.
Well, guys, one car that caught my eye right here is that 24 William Byron backing up hard here, losing a couple spots at the beginning. I thought maybe he was just sort of stuck on the bottom, but as you see here, the 19 Martin Truex all over the back of him there. And talking to Rudy Fugo, his crew chief, he put a lot of emphasis on this place, saying we have historically not been good here as a company. We're trying 2 or 3 things inside this race car in just a couple laps of practice. We thought we saw some good things, but right now, William Byron going in the wrong direction early here at New Hampshire.
Yeah, Parker, that's one thing that these teams are going to struggle with is this racetrack is going to change a great deal. It's going to get rubber built up into it. They got just a few laps of practice, almost really learned nothing, Steve. And, you know, it's going to change. You're going to have to keep up with this racetrack. You may struggle now, but that might actually be better late in the race.
You know, William Byron, when you look at tracks that he's great at, this is one they have circled for improvement. He's never run in the top 10. His teammate Alex Bowman does not like this place. He will admit it. He actually ran the Xfinity Series race yesterday to try to get some more laps. As we see Denny Hamlin, that purple and white Yahoo car, moves to the left of Brad Keselowski with that interesting looking font for the number. A New England guy myself, I recognize that font. That's some Red Sox Fenway font for the number 6. See the Red Sox logo on the BuiltSubmarines.com car. Remember the RFK, that F is the Fenway Group, the group that owns the Red Sox as well as some other sports teams.
You remember Johnny Pesky from the Red Sox?
I know the name, Rick, but I don't know any stats. Don't put me on a quiz.
No, he's one of the famous number 6s there. Mr. Red Sox, they call him. He's part of the Red Sox Hall of Fame. Actually, the right field foul pole is called the pesky pole.
Pesky pole, you can loop one around there. It's a good solid 15, 18 feet shorter. You can hit it right down. I was a Wade Boggs fan, so we were Green Monster. We were going Green Monster all the time, bouncing one off left field. See right here, and this is what makes this track so difficult. 11 and 6, door to door. And look at Brad. He was like 3 feet lower. He was making it a little harder on Denny. Denny slid up, but once again, not clear. On the top of the screen, you see Joey Logano patiently working by Ross Chastain. Blaney trying to come through. So we thought Blaney was struggling early, but maybe the car just didn't really respond on low air or cold tires. It seems to have some pretty good pace now.
We talked about Logano and where he is in points at the start of this show. This is a very important race for Joey Logano. This is where they've had a lot of speed, this type of racetrack. They need to execute. He's been very vocal about it. The upcoming races he's not as confident about in regard to their cars. This is a very important race. You see Blaney had trouble down the back straightaway. He slowed a great deal. Several guys got by him. It looks like he's up to pace in the corner here.
I don't know if he missed a shift or if the car just stumbled, but it was obvious that it was just a straight line situation. Here he is down the backstretch. So much so he pulls left like he feels like he has an issue.
following along now with him in the screen on the bottom right hand of the television, and he looks fine now. We'll do a little digging and figure out what happened.
Josh Berry right now side by side with the 1 of Ross Chastain. Blaney working his way back now to the inside. You guys had mentioned the struggles of the Hendrick team. We haven't seen the 5 of Kyle Larson win at this racetrack. We haven't seen the 9 of Chase Elliott win at this racetrack. There have been struggles from that organization. Marty, how about the 22 team?
Yeah, I thought Jeff made a terrific point a moment ago as we ride on board, top of your screen with the Hunt Brothers Pizza onboard camera for Joey Logano. And he and Paul Wolfe sat down about 6 weeks ago, Steve, and said, listen, this is our stretch. Paul told Joey, we need to win one of these next few races. And they kind of had a few races like Gateway, here, a few other places circled, because to Jeff's point, they felt like the short track program was their best shot right now to win a race. Ford has struggled at the intermediate tracks, but here, and you heard Paul say it a moment ago, they really feel like this is sort of the end of that window, Steve, that they can get a win today. That's their best way to lock themselves into the playoffs.
Yeah, when I talk to the Ford teams, not specifically Paul Wolfe, but take kind of the sum of all the conversations, it seems like they just don't feel like they can make efficient downforce. They can match the downforce of other race cars, and that's why on tracks like New Hampshire and St. Louis, where a straight line speed isn't so valuable, they can match it for handling purposes. But when you go to the higher speed tracks, where you have to also worry about your potential top speed and your straight line speed, they can't quite get to the same efficient level of downforce. Now, we'll see if they get that figured out. You know, we've said that about Ford for the last couple of years, and yet they're the champion the last couple of years. So they always seem to find a way at the end of the year to bring that speed. Kim, how about the 12 and Blaney and another Ford?
Yeah, you guys were asking if he had an issue, maybe he missed a shift. Well, the team wonders the same thing. I checked in and they kind of shrugged. They said, we have no idea what happened. I've been monitoring the radio since the start of the race on the 12 team, and Blaney has been absolutely silent. So any issue he had, he's overcome. So we kind of still have questions onto what happened for Ryan during those few laps.
You remember Blaney started up in the front row and has fallen back to that 5th spot. Chase Elliott started on pole. He has led all 15 laps here at the Granite State.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an authorized gaming operator of NASCAR, and this week, new customers can bet $5 and pocket a $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code SPEED when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. And you look at the bottom left of the graphics right there, those are live odds. Those aren't what the race cars were or the drivers were before the event. Currently, you can bet Chase Elliott leaning at 3-1 plus 300. If you feel like Logano can recover, he's all the way down there at 7-1. Keselowski 12-1. Reddick 15-1. On the track in the good-looking DraftKings Toyota, the 23 of Bubba Wallace, Kim.
And Bubba Wallace currently sitting in that final spot on the playoff standing, just 6 points to the good. And so they had circled points as a goal for today. Right now, they are outside of earning points in stage 1. And right now, Bubba's been silent on the radio, but there were some questions. They only made 4 laps yesterday in practice, and crew chief Rudy Barker told me he thinks they were able to learn something in those 4 laps, and they made some adjustments off of that. But there's a big concern that hopefully they were not misled. Right now, he hasn't made any headway at a track, Marty, that is very hard to pass.
Kim, beginning of the year, I don't think anybody thought with 9 races left in the regular season that Kyle Busch would be 31 points below the cut line. In the last 3 weeks, they have lost a ton of points as Busch loses another spot after starting 30th. He's in 32nd. I talked to Randall Burnett about that, and he said on paper, we've lost 43 points to the cut line in the last 3 weeks, but when you consider the potential we've had in our car, it's closer to 70 points. If we're going to make it on points, we have to clean that up, Parker.
And Marty, as I look at the back half of the top 10 here, we go on board here, the ally on board with Alex Bowman. He's the highest running of these cars above his teammate, the 24 William Byron. Both of them started 5th and 3rd, and now William Byron has fallen outside the top 10 to 11. And Alex Bowman is backed up here to the 8th position, and their biggest foes have been a contingent of Toyotas. Martin Truex Jr. went by them. Reddick has started to go by them. Hamlin has caught these cars. And behind that, they have Ty Gibbs as well as they try to find the speed in those Hendrick Chevys. As we mentioned early in the race, this has been a place that Hendrick has felt like has not historically been the best for them. They were trying certain things across these different race cars, and early on, the indications are that it's not working quite well for the 24, the 48. The teams are giving them information on where to run line-wise and how to adjust, but the speed is just not there, and definitely not there like those Toyotas you see right there, the Denny Hamlin, who's marched in the top 10 from starting 14th.
And Parker, it's been surprising to me. The Chevrolets have not had great success here at this racetrack. But probably even more surprising, Steve, you mentioned it before the green flag came out. Kyle Busch and his struggles. He has struggled at this racetrack, and coming off a year where he put 3 wins together at RCR, and now struggling right now to run in the 32nd position at this racetrack. I think that's probably the biggest surprise of the year so far for me.
Yeah, I mean, 19 years, Kyle Busch has won a race in his career, looking for 20 in a row. He already owns the record. He would like to extend the record. And what makes this race so difficult and the short practice and the no qualifying is we're 27 laps into a 70-lap stage. You can run all 70 laps on a fuel tank. You can run about 95 laps, maybe 100 if you had to stretch it. So there's really kind of no rest, right? If you just miss it from the start, you have to run all 70 laps barring a yellow, and that does not give these drivers that are struggling much hope. As we see Hamlin trying to recover a little bit. His start wasn't quite as good because of the accident last week. Remember, the metric takes points and where you finished last week and fast lap and a bunch into this math equation. So Denny started a little bit further back than perhaps we normally see the 11.
Talked to Denny this morning, and he was really hoping for dry conditions. Feels like they got a really good car. He's always good here. Talked about teams struggling. Well, this is one of them today. This 99 car, Suarez, they have lost almost 20 spots. 19 spots since the start. Car is not handling well at all. He's complaining about it actually bouncing up and down on the racetrack. That is headed in the wrong direction.
And Kim, you've got more about a busy week with Suarez.
Yeah, it's been a very busy week. Daniel Suarez actually got to take his oath for becoming a U.S. citizen on Tuesday. He passed the test back on April 29th, but there you see him. He was one of 48 people from 28 different countries to take the oath to be sworn in as a U.S. citizen. And a special thing happened today. They got clearance from NASCAR to put stickers on the race car representing his dual citizenship. So you see him adding the USA sticker next to the Mexican sticker right there. A very proud moment for Daniel Suarez. But Jeff, to your point, they are struggling so far on the track right now. They were hoping to kind of use some momentum from a top 10 finish last week, but when I checked in with Matt Swiderski before the race, they one of the teams that said they felt like they learned nothing in the few laps they put in on practice yesterday, and so it was a big guessing game on what the car needed here today.
Jeff, you mentioned how rough the car is. Well, the track in general is relatively smooth. The real problem is right here. This is looking at the end of the backstretch. The cars are heading at you. And just look right there at the end of the soft wall, how much the front of the car bounces over those bumps getting in the corner. And that, unfortunately, not only is it rough, but if your car doesn't get over those bumps good under braking, the rest of the corner is kind of a mess. You can't slow down to the right speed. You can't hit the right spot. It looks like it should be relatively simple. Entrance to turn 3 isn't bad, into turn 1 isn't bad, but into turn 3 is so rough.
And Steve, this is one of those racetracks where a driver is rewarded for carrying a lot of speed into the corner. The center of the corner is so far away from the entry that it allows you to carry a lot of speed and then get the car slowed down. But to do that, you have to drive the car in deep, use a lot of brake to get the car slowed down, but it's hard to do that when you're going over those bumps.
Riding along with the Toyota onboard, Martin Truex Jr., last year's winner of this race, dominated, won both stages and the race, and now he's been the fastest car on the racetrack the past 2 laps.
Yeah, and it looks for good reason. You see him reach down and pull the shift into high gear. Let's ride on board, see how kind of busy that wheel is. Ooh, I like the looks of that. Maybe a little tight in the middle, hands get quiet, but I like how as soon as he picks up the throttle, he has to open that wheel a little, Jeff. Car looks like it's rotating pretty well.
Yeah, watch
shifting just to get a feel for it, also get a real mileage.
Watch what he's doing. He drives in at that white line, moves up the racetrack about a groove and a half, then turns the car and leaves back on the white line. A lot of different ways to get around this racetrack. Marty.
You know, Jeff, I found it compelling what Parker was saying, that Denny Hamlin's trying a new setup. That's also what Martin Truex Jr. is doing today. And yes, this is the team that won here last year at New Hampshire. James Small told me, listen, on the short tracks, we've honestly missed it a little bit coming off the truck. He said, we came with something completely different. We got just enough laps in practice to be able to say, I think that's the right road to go down. We're going to stick with it. So far, that's paying off for him, Steve. But talk about the tough weekend for these race teams, Steve, when they only had a handful of laps, and you're totally guessing on what the right direction was for the race today.
Yeah, I actually think I prefer no practice than 5 laps. I think 5 would just confuse me. What's interesting about Martin Truex Jr. right here is we watched him shifting. We heard the radio. I couldn't make out exactly what he said, but something about maybe shifting either not or shifting in a different location, but I haven't seen him shift yet, and I think I would have thought he had to run in 5th gear, but the telemetry said 4th. You see his left hand kind of coming off the wheel, but no shifting the last 2 or 3 laps. That tells me that the driver's had the option. Jeff, it's more than just engine RPM. Sometimes when you downshift, it really changes the balance of the race car. It allows the car to either have, be a tighter balance or a freer balance. I think it affects each car differently.
Yeah, almost every driver talks about when you downshift, it puts RPMs in the car. It actually makes the car drive better. It makes grip. Want as many RPMs as you can get.
The gap between Elliott and Bell up front has dropped to just 1 second.
Join NASCAR's free rewards program and start earning points that turn into member-only rewards. You can earn points every time you check in for a race, from home or at the track. Trade them in for free tickets, exclusive gear, autographed merchandise, and one-of-a-kind race day experiences. Visit NASCAR.com/fan rewards.
It went from 3.5 seconds to 1 second to now side by side. Here comes that 20 of Christopher Bell. He's looking to take the lead away from Chase Elliott.
Won yesterday's Xfinity Series race, his 4th win in 4 starts here at the racetrack. And now Bell is showing that not only are those Joe Gibbs Toyotas good, but his comfort level is high here. Elliott ran out to a lead. It looks like he's getting a little tight, especially in the middle of the racetrack, using up a lot of track. That 20, Jeff, very efficient around the bottom.
Christopher Bell is a smooth race car driver, and he loves this racetrack. Joe Gibbs Racing seems to consistently bring fast race cars here. And that's where if you have a fast race car, Steve, you're good with no practice.
Yeah, right.
You know, you like it. You're like, all right, I don't want to give practice to the other guys. We're going to unload and be just fine.
Well, that is kind of, you know, people always say, how is one organization so good at a racetrack? And it's surprising because even with a new car, a new setup, a new tire, so many new things, certain tracks, New Hampshire, Martinsville, there are certain tracks, Marty, that it seems like the approach, maybe not the physical setup, but the approach, what you prioritize, aero versus mechanical grip, it stays consistent year after year, and I think that approach is part of the success.
And Steve, I love the coaching from Adam Stevens for Christopher Bell early in this run. He identified pretty quickly about 15 laps into the run. He said, I think our car is going to be better on the long run than the 9 car. Just be patient, stick with it. And you mentioned the 4 wins in the Xfinity Series here for Bell. How about 6 wins and 10 National Series starts for Christopher Bell here at New Hampshire? He loves this racetrack. And Jeff, he said something very interesting. He said, I enjoy this place because driver technique matters here. He said, it's almost like a dirt track to me. You're constantly searching around for grip. That's what I love about New Hampshire. You're a 4-time winner here, Jeff. Is that a true statement about this racetrack?
Yeah, Marty, I believe it is. That you have options. You know, if your car isn't driving well on the white line on the very bottom, you move up the racetrack. You can cross over into different degrees of banking depending on where you put the race car and when you put it there. So your entry speed, your center of the corner speed, where the car is, all of those things are options here. They're not required because it's not a one-groove racetrack. So a dirt car driver, he's accustomed to going and finding grip. And this falls right into what he's so good at.
The other part of that approach I talked about, if it's not driver, sometimes it's crew chief. We see Josh Berry right here in the 4 having a great run running in 4th. Well, he's had 3 top 10s this year in 2024, and they came in the last 5 races. And when you want to talk about the approach, well, how about on top of the pit box, Rodney Childers? Harvick, when he drove the 4 car, he finished in the top 6 the last 6 times here. So you're talking about a crew chief that has a lot of experience and a lot of confidence because he is, you know, very good at a racetrack. It's carrying over to his new driver, Josh Berry.
And Steve, that learning process of going from what Kevin Harvick likes in the car to what Josh Berry likes in the car is something Josh and I talked about this week. He said, I feel like we're finally at the point where they know what I want in the car and they can translate what Harvick liked into what I would like in a race car. Kim, another short track, another terrific run for this 4 team and Josh Berry.
Well, we saw Christopher Bell overtake leader Chase Elliott. Chase's car is just not to his liking. Take a listen to what he told his team.
Just a lose. Hard on the rear. It's just kind of hard for me to get it on the right front, but my ride's really bad. Been bad even before the tires got pumped.
So Chase Elliott having issues with an ill-handling race car. And Steve, when he says his ride is bad, as a crew chief, what kind of notes are you making for that first stop to make sure you get your driver what you need?
Well, it's hard, Kim, because I'm assuming he's talking about into turn 3 over those bumps. And some things can be adjusted, whether it's overall height of the car or some air pressure. But some things you have to just live with. Some choices you have in this race car is the same. I thought he looked tight because he was using the race car. But Jeff, maybe his ride's so bad and being loose, he just can't turn the wheel to run the rate as he wants, and that's what's making him go move up the racetrack.
Yeah, you see this great battle right here. Martin Truex Jr. underneath Josh Berry. Blaney just got by. Josh, you know, using a lot of racetrack. But the other information that Chase Elliott gave, Steve, that I thought was really interesting and smart to give is he said the ride is rough even after the tires got air in them. And what he's saying is hey, we can't lower the back of the car anymore. It's already too rough. And sometimes it'll ride rough on low air pressure because it's hitting the bumps. When the air pressure comes up, it stops hitting the bumps, and that tells the crew chief, yes, we can change the height of the car. But that information from Elliott was like, no, we probably shouldn't do that.
Well, it's an interesting concept because the old car, majority of the time, you were rough because you were hitting the racetrack. So, Jeff, to your point, air pressure would raise the car up. They'd blow up like balloons. But the back of these cars, hitting these shock stops, has really nothing to do with air pressure. That's the physical travel of the race car. So it'll be interesting to see what the 9 does. Now, at the same time, he's running second, so there's no reason to panic. You want to just start cranking on everything. But that's where you can get in trouble here because he ran a 31.50. Well, if you go all the way back to, say, you know, Ty Gibbs, who's the fastest car on the racetrack currently in 11th, he's at a 31.30. So, you know, I know you're second, but is that because you started up front or is that because you have a second-place car? Truex, though, look, he's rolling.
We talked about running all over this racetrack and how dirt track drivers find a way to do it. Obviously, the 5 of Kyle Larson, he has tons of dirt experience. Look where he has his car at the moment. He is nowhere near the bottom, and he is the highest on the racetrack. Look how much track he's using right in the middle of the corner. Bubba Wallace right behind him trying to do the same thing. Kyle making good pace there.
That's high. I haven't seen anyone up over that darker asphalt. That's the highest I've seen somebody.
Marty.
And Steve, I think he's just searching at this point. Jeff, maybe you can translate this into what the folks at home would understand. Larson said it just feels like I have nothing to lean on corner entry. Is that a familiar issue here at New Hampshire?
That is definitely a familiar issue. And what he's talking about is he's too loose. The back of the car is not gripped up the way he wants it to be. So he can't drive in with the amount of pace that he wants because he's afraid the back of the car is going to try to spin out, get him out of the groove, or get him wrecked, Parker.
And Jeff, just one thing that sticks in my mind when you guys were talking about Chase Elliott commenting on the car being really rough as it goes through the corners. You know, the visible bumps in the entry to turn 3, but one of the things that stuck out to me yesterday was how bumpy the center of the corners are. That could be something that he's fighting, and maybe Kyle Larson is trying to get away from. More race in New Hampshire when we come back.
Teammates nose to tail here. William Byron just in front of Kyle Larson. And it's been an interesting media center week as we see Christopher Bell closing in on Chase Briscoe. Briscoe will be the next car that will go a lap down. And a little bit of maybe a media faux pas happened with Christopher Bell earlier this week when he gave up a little bit of news that I don't think was supposed to be announced yet. In that media center, he mentioned when Chase joins the team, and Chase Briscoe was actually at a dirt track racing where he finished second here, the flat track, and he said he turned his phone off because he knew he was going to get a lot of people calling and texting.
Well, you see this battle right here.
The racetrack.
Yeah. They're trying to stay on the lead lap. And these two have been going at it. And now the leader is there.
On the bottom of the screen, Joey Logano has worked his way out of the rear bumper of the 9. Right there is where I think the 20 is so good, like that 2/3 mark. As you watch on the top of the screen, he's going to chase Briscoe into the corner. Zepp, brand new partner on top of that 14 car. It's always great when you see a new partner in the sport. Right there, you see how the 20 kind of turns back to the apron. The front tires on that 20 car really seem to work through the middle of the corner. I think that gives the driver options. On the bottom of the screen, that battle for second is heated up because now Blaney has entered the fold. He says as Logano runs down Elliott, Blaney has run down Logano.
Yeah, we talk about Logano being good on these racetracks. Well, that 12 car, I would say, has been just a little bit better, just a little more speed than the 22, but Penske teammates, both are really good. Christopher Bell still trying to put a lap on Chase Briscoe.
So now with 8 laps to go in the stage, if we can make it all the way to the end of the stage, we'll see the green and white checkered. Everybody will come to pit road. I assume it's going to be 4 tires for everyone and adjustments. The interesting thing is they've burned more fuel they could put in the race car on a 4-tire change. So what teams will wait to fill up the fuel tanks and which guy will leave on the jack? So Parker, we may see a variety of pit stop speeds. What else are you hearing on the 14 as he now is going a lap down to the 20 of Bell?
Well, what he's doing right there, his team came on the radio and just said basically race the 20 at all costs to stay on the lead lap, because the one thing that hurts the strategy calls and the abilities of these race teams, as you know, Steve, is if you go down a lap, that severely limits your options. That 14 team told me they want to be aggressive today in terms of trying to steal track position. They're not going to have that opportunity if that 20 car gets by him, so he's been told to race him at all costs. You see him right now not giving Christopher Bell any room as they come up the corner, Marty.
Battle for second, bottom of your screen. Joey Logano trying to get it from Chase Elliott. You know, it's interesting, Jeff, a moment ago, Christopher Bell asked Adam Stevens, how much gap do I have? He said almost 3 seconds to second. So 6 laps to go in the stage. Would he maybe cut his potential new future teammate a break and not put him down a lap? What do you think, Jeff?
No. Under no situation can you do that. You have to keep as many cars a lap down as you can. This is as far as Bell's been up alongside him getting in the corner. Now he's just going to drive in the corner deeper, be able to roll the middle and just take that spot. You have to, when you're able to lap cars, you have to put them down. You saw how Lucy got on the exit of turn 4. But he's going to keep going here because there's 2 cars right there that he can put a lap down. And Steve, if you have a tire problem, if you have a bad pit stop, all those cars that are lapped down, they're guys you don't have to go through to get back to the lead.
I'll go one more. It's kind of like match play golf. You can never mentally take your foot off the gas. I don't care if this is for position. You're here to beat everyone, and you need to beat everyone every lap. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't times to ride to save your equipment. But that is the strategy to win. At no point should you give up the idea to win a race.
And a big gap now between Chase Briscoe and Christopher Bell, under 3 laps to go in stage 1. Ryan Preece just in front of Briscoe. Another driver trying to stay on the lead lap. Here comes Bell once again, closing that gap again.
You hear drivers talking about how hard it is to pass in this car. Well, you know why it's hard to pass is because the car that's getting lapped, he's only a couple tenths slower than the fast car. I mean, that's never in the history of our sport have we had cars and teams this competitive.
2 to go now. Bell leads the top 10. You see Bell, Elliott, Logano, Blaney, Berry, Truex looking for stage points. Hamlin, Chastain, Bowman, and Gibbs. Toyotas not only just lead the race, but there's a whole chunk of them inside the top 10.
Logano underneath Chase Elliott.
One more time around, and it looks like Chase Briscoe is going to try to stay on that lead lap. We'll see if he can do it through 1 and 2. That higher line is working for Briscoe, but here comes Bell, trying to put him a lap down as that battle for second continues on the bottom of the screen. Through 3 and 4, the final time, and Briscoe looks as though he's going to be able to hang on to a lead lap finish in stage 1. Christopher Bell, that's his 7th stage win of 2024. That's second most behind Larson, who has 8. Watch this battle for 9th.
Points are available. 45 of Reddick runs the 3rd lane basically to roll around both of them. And Reddick will get 9th, Bowman 10th, and Ty Gibbs will get shut out of points.
From green to green and white checkered in stage 1. And it was Chase Elliott for the first 41 laps. And then Christopher Bell makes the pass and ends up winning stage 1.
NBC Sports coverage of NASCAR on USA is brought to you by Credit One Bank, NASCAR American Express Card, Toyota, Let's Go Places, and by Progressive Insurance. Save when you bundle auto, home, or motorcycle insurance. Visit progressive.com. Leaders have hit pit road. Bell leads them all down. After 70 laps, they'll be looking for tires and adjustments, Marty.
Steve, for a driver below the cut line, 9 critical stage points for Joey Logano, who finishes 2nd in that stage. He said, I just need more drive on exit, but pretty happy with a 22. Meanwhile, Christopher Bell said, I'm just a little bit too tight mid-corner. He said, make the adjustment very small, Kim.
We'll take a swing at the 9 car of Chase Elliott. He said it was way loose, bouncy, terrible ride. He was just hanging on, he said at the end. He said, I didn't notice it bounce yesterday at all. Not sure where that came from. Wasn't an air thing, had it from the green. A little slow on that. They did make a left rear adjustment on Chase Elliott.
Bell and Logano finish 1st and 2nd. That's the way they come off of pit road. And we're looking forward to being embedded with that 22 team. That's Joey Logano, who will be on the pit box with Paul Wolfe, and we'll be hearing from Coleman Presley on the spotter stand.
back at New Hampshire. Second place finish for Joey Logano in stage 1. In stage 2, we're going to be embedded with this race team. And I want to explain kind of what happens on top of the pit box here and how the communication flows. Normally, Travis Geisler, the head of competition at Team Penske, is down there. He can listen to all 4 teams on an intercom. Paul Wolf and these guys all have an open communication constantly to each other. And then you've got Brandon Pope, the lead engineer, also Tommy Ellis, the car chief. He's on that communication as well. And also Joe Bisson, who is the lead strategist for all of Team Penske, but is dedicated to the 22 team back in the shop in Mooresville, North Carolina. So what all is happening? Well, the mic is open all the time. They're also monitoring on a live document all the things that all the drivers in the field are saying and kind of picking out trends of what's going on. There is planning strategy that's going on as well. And also Joe back at the shop can run a predictive pit stop software that says, hey, if we pit now under green, here is where we would cycle back out. And that is always running for this race team. And the chat also going between all the Team Penske cars, also a separate chat to Coleman Presley. Ultimately, it comes down to Paul Wolf to make the final decision. So at home, Steve, you see a 10-second stop, but often there's 40 minutes of conversation that goes into making that 10-second stop right.
Well, there's so many decisions on your choices that you have. How many tires? What is everybody else going to do? What's the strategy going to do? You see the penalty on the 34 of McDowell. You mentioned that 40 minutes of conversation. They used that conversation to decide to take 2 tires, but then the gas can was still engaged when it left the pit box, so it was removing equipment. A penalty on the 34, also a penalty on the 2 of Austin Cindric. And Jeff, you were kind of shocked and surprised. Bell choosing the bottom. Yesterday we saw the leader always choose the top.
Historically here, that inside line does not accelerate as well as the outside line. Let's see how it works out for Bell.
And let's listen in to Coleman Presley.
5 and go. Truex is closer to you. Half back to Truex, half back to Truex, half back to Truex, half back east by 2, half back in line, headlight up, in line, just going to be the 20. You're all clear at the bottom. All clear right here. All clear. All clear. 2 back, Truex's box. 2 back, top is closer. 2 back to the top, 1 to both, 1 to the half of the top now. All clear up, all clear up, all clear up, all clear up. All right, Truex is not clear. 3/4 back, he is not clear, he is not clear. 1 back, he is not clear. 1 back, half higher, half to both. Bottom inside the 9, inside the 9 here.
That is a lot of communication going to a driver, and it's all behind him.
Well, that used to be Daytona 15 years ago, but it's now become everywhere, right, Jeff? I mean, with the restarts, double file restarts, that's just a required communications. Now we see 3 wide behind Logano. A great move by the 4 of Josh Berry.
Look at this, 3 wide still. Berry making that high line work. Mark Truex Jr. falls back behind him. Here comes Berry again. What a run we're seeing out of this 4 team. Josh Berry trying to take second.
Well, lots been made about Stuart Haas Racing shutting down, and we talked about, you mentioned, Rick, about Christopher Bell maybe letting it slip to Chase Briscoe. Either is the leading candidate or is going to the 19. I guess we'll find out in the future, but think about a driver like Josh Berry. You know, he's kind of out here auditioning, right? What can he do to prove that he should fill some of these seats that might become vacant at the end of the year?
What I like about what Josh Berry is doing, so many races here, we watched that 4 car with Kevin Harvick driving it with that high exit. And it's worked for Kevin Harvick. And instead of Josh Berry resisting that, trying something different, it looks a lot like Kevin Harvick's driving that car.
That is a good point. Well, that's a good point, though, Jeff, because I mentioned Rodney Childers. Well, this is Josh Berry, it looks that way, doing his homework, saying, I'm going to try to drive this car the way the last guy did because he was very good at it.
Yeah, and he wants it, he needs it the way he needs it, but also, there's, you know, if you have a chance to learn from Kevin Harvick, you take advantage of that.
We'll see if Bell pulls away from Berry the way he did from Chase Elliott. Almost a second now separating 1 and 2.
Denny Hamlin trying to get by the 9. Does a nice job, kind of will slide up, take the spot away. I think that's important, you know, is how quick you can make the pass. It's got to be easier on your tires, right, Jeff? Not running that extra 2 or 3 sets of corners side by side.
There's no doubt. You want to, as soon as you get by somebody, you want to clear them. See, Elliott struggling a little bit right here. We talk about this racetrack changing. It changes as much as anywhere we go, and you really got to stay ahead of it, understanding which direction it's going to go. Is it going to tighten up, meaning the car is going to quit turning? Is it going to loosen up, meaning the back of the car is going to try to spin out, or is it just lose or gain overall grip?
Seen a little bit of smoke out of the 47 here of Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Yeah, that very colorful car with the blue hood right there.
Oh, left front lockup.
Oh, yeah.
So that happens. We talked about the bumps, right? Down in turn 3, we will see a lot of left front lockup because as it's transitioning through the bumps, it's really easy to lock it up, slide it. The biggest concern is not flat spotting that tire.
Reddick just clearing Ross Chastain. Looks like Chastain thought it might have been a little too close.
William Byron right behind him. Chastain's going to try to turn back to the left of the 45. Look at William Byron. Normally I would be shocked like he's wrecking the race car, but multiple cars, when I read through the radio communications throughout the first 70 laps, so much of the talk was about how high people were running on the racetrack. Jeff pointed it out, Larson was kind of the first guy there. We see a little slide job by Chastain. Reddick back to the inside. He won't get back to the inside quarter panel of the 1, but a lot of guys running up the racetrack. Parker.
And Steve, sometimes, as you know, it's about making the car work for that lane, and that's exactly what Rudy Fugle did with the 24 car. They noted that lane, then on this pit stop, they actually lost a few positions because they did round adjustments on both the right and the left side, which slows down the stop a little bit these days, and it's just a second or two. They lost about 4 spots, but he's been able to get those back using that really high middle lane and then cutting back down on the exit, just getting that car to turn the center the way they do with the rounds has helped. He's able to make some headway here.
Mark Truex Jr.'s closed the gap back to the 4 of Josh Berry, so he's starting to put a little pressure on him for second. Berry way down low compared to what we saw him at the end of stage 1. He was way up in the 3rd lane, and now he's been diving a little bit lower on the racetrack here.
The other thing we see at this racetrack is, you know, some cars take off really quickly, really good on restarts, and others are good on long runs. Berry obviously had a lot of pace taking off there. Let's see where it goes. Let's listen to Joey Logano and his team.
Pick it off a little tight here. I had less overall grip to fire off. Seems like compared to the other guys. Now I'm tight. 50 on the leader. All of his lap times coming from turn 2 exit. Turn 2 exit. Slightly lower in the middle. Same pull down as you.
All right, so Joey giving information to his team about how the car took off on this restart, how it drives. Coleman Presley coming right back at him and saying, okay, here's where we need to be better. Here's what the leader's doing. Here's how he's doing it. Giving that information to Joey, not telling Joey how to drive the race car, but just making sure that Joey understands where the actual speed is being lost. That's great communication, a lot of trust between that driver and spotter.
Well, let's take a look at the progressive telemetry on the 22 of Joey Logano. Jeff, take me behind the wheel. We see what the car looks like on the racetrack. Show me what Logano himself is doing. Now, this makes more sense, 3rd and 4th. So that answers my question on Truex. We saw him not shift earlier and only ran in 4th. While they are shifting on the racetrack, it's between 3rd and 4th, not 4th and 5th.
Well, you can see right now, Joey talked about being tight, and it shows up right in the middle of the corner. The 11 car is able to stay down, roll the middle of the corner with more speed. Joey gets in the corner. You saw him roll through those bumps right there. The 11 is turned, and the 22 is not. This is where it's going to get difficult to make that pass. Even though Hamlin has good rotation in the middle, it's hard to keep that rotation on corner exit without it getting hard on the rear tires. So, you know, Joey's going to put up a big fight right here. Denny knows it's coming. Denny actually jumping to the outside, trying to surprise him. It's two of the very best going at it.
And they're going to run the same line through 3 and 4. Hamlin a little bit higher. Blaney back there behind them in 6th. Bell, he's been out front for 52 laps of this race. And that's right, you're watching the USA Today 301 from New Hampshire. We stay embedded with the 22 team. While Christopher Bell has a 2.2-second lead over second place Martin Truex Jr., there's some great racing back 10th on back when we start with Bubba Wallace, who's running in that 10th position. He's only 10 seconds out of the lead.
Yeah, only 10 seconds out of the lead. We're driving one of those Toyotas. They've seemed to really moved up. You know, he's been top 10 the last 2 races here. I think they were looking to try to gain some of those valuable points. He's the guy that's right around that cut line in the playoffs. Let's take a listen to the radio.
To continue running the top, SMT showing need to use less brakes, carry more roll speed. You can use the same brake, you can just move your line down a little bit if you want.
That's great information. So they're basically telling the 23, hey, we talk about different lines on the racetrack. This is something new, Jeff. We haven't seen a lot of guys up there. Just try a little less brake. Don't overslow the car. Let the car roll that upper lane with a little bit more speed.
Yeah, when you're watching other guys do something, it's great to understand what they're doing with their feet and their hands. Behind Bubba Wallace, Kyle Larson, you know, he started 19th, got himself up to 11th place. 3-time runner-up here, hasn't found a way to win yet. Kyle Larson is just, you can see where he is. He's not, yeah, he's up there. Lap before, he wasn't quite as high, but Kyle, the first guy to kind of push everybody in the field up the racetrack.
Yeah, right behind Kyle Larson, the one of Ross Chastain. Surprisingly winless so far in 2024. He's had his moments where you thought he had an opportunity, but remember, he won Nashville last year. We're heading to Nashville next year. Trackhouse quasi based in Nashville. I know the shop's in Charlotte, but they like to talk about Nashville being their hometown. We'll see if he can find that same magic.
And behind him is Tyler Reddick. Tyler is a fun race car driver to watch. He's always pushing the buttons, always driving really hard.
William Byron, we've kind of documented Hendrick Motorsports' struggles by their kind of expectation here, and that continues with William Byron. He has 6 starts here. He's never finished inside the top 10. 11th just a couple times, and here he is running basically kind of right on that same number, currently running 14th. The good thing for Byron is that's probably his worst racetrack, because I can't think of another track we go to where he's not contending for top fives. Great looking paint scheme. Another car, a good lane and a half higher than normal.
Yeah, somebody that everybody on the racetrack is watching is Todd Gilliland. He's trying a two-tire setup right here, put 2 tires at that last stop. Seems to be working pretty well. Todd Gilliland recently signing an extension to his contract. He's done a really nice job. Young driver with a lot of talent.
Chris Buescher is back in the 16th position, Jeff, and I talked to him last week about New Hampshire, which he will admit is not his best racetrack, probably his least favorite, and he told me, hey, I'm even looking forward to New Hampshire. That's how good our speed has been at RFK so far this year. I asked Scott Graves, hey, what would be a good result for this team? He said, honestly, knowing how Chris has struggled here in the past, if we can get out of here with a top 10, that's a good day for us, Kim.
Marty, Corey LaJoie in the 17th position, just looking for a clean race after last week. And we talk about Corey being the veteran over at Spire Motorsports. He really leaned into the veteran position this week, and that's because his teammates Carson Hocevar and Zane Smith had never even seen New Hampshire, let alone raced on it. Right now, Carson Hocevar running in the 18th position. That team looking to continue a streak of 3 straight top 20 finishes. And we talked about only a few laps each team got yesterday in practice. So valuable for Carson Hocevar, Parker. They said he loved the car yesterday. Right now, just needing a little bit more turn.
And Kim, right behind him is one of the coolest stories in the Cup Series in 2024. And that is Justin Haley and Rick Ware Racing and the tear they have been on as we get into these summer months. In just the last 5 races, they've had 2 top 10s in that 51 car and a 13th place finish, and now running inside the top 20. He was a bit loose to that first stage. They tightened him up. He said it's coming to us now in this second stage as he gets to the back of the 77 Carson Hocevar. But the rise of Rick Ware Racing and Justin Haley is something that's caught many people's eyes, and they continue this going forward.
And a little bit of a head scratcher seeing Brad Keselowski running in the 20th position. That's because statistically, New Hampshire is his best racetrack. He has 2 wins here, an average finish of a little bit over the 9th position, but Brad just has not had what he needs here today. The first run, he said, no matter what I do, I feel like I'm overdriving it. After that last stop, he did get some changes. He said, you helped my center a lot, but Marty, he cannot do anything with it because the exit on that car is just so bad.
Eric Jones back in the 21st position, talking to Dave Ellens this morning. He said, honestly, Loudon's not been our best track. Short tracks in general have not been our best discipline so far this year. So we came with a couple of different things trying to improve. He said, but there's a couple of really good tracks coming up for us. Nashville next week, one where we think Eric will be very good. And of course, the regular season closes out, Rick, at Darlington. Eric Jones has always been good at that racetrack.
Oh, definitely. That is one of the tracks that they circle on the schedule every year.
We talk about, you know, moments in the race, first 70 laps went green, not a lot of time to work on your race car. Now it's about who's made adjustments. John Hunter Nemechek currently 29th. Why does that matter? Well, he's in the free pass position. Rick sat down next to him at dinner, had a big conversation. I think that's actually where Rick started to lose his voice, was chatting up John Hunter Nemechek. Maybe I perhaps gave him whatever took my voice away last week, so we're trying to help Rick out a little bit here. But John Hunter in the free pass position, he was battling the 3 who's right behind John Hunter Nemechek. You know, Austin Dillon, we talk a lot about the 8, and we could talk about Kyle Busch, but to be direct, it really looks more like an RCR issue, right? Austin Dillon running 30th, Kyle Busch running 31st. So, you know, I think Kyle Busch can only do so much with the car he's driving. Austin Dillon, the same situation. They have to find a little bit more pace in those Chevrolets.
The gap between 1 and 2 still about 1.3 seconds. Christopher Bell coming in had only led 43 laps before today. He's over 60 now.
73 laps to go in stage 2 here at New Hampshire as we continue to take a deep dive on Joey Logano and the 22 team. I want to give a shout out to all the hauler drivers here in the NASCAR Cup Series garage, but especially the two on the 22 team, Michael Williams and Jason Wong. And you look at the last 4 weeks for the hauler drivers, they will tell you arguably the toughest stretch of the year for these drivers. They have gone all those miles, over 10,000 miles in the last 4 weeks. And I talked to Jason this morning about it. He said he has had 1 day at home in 4 weeks. That was this past Tuesday. I asked him what he did. He said, nothing. I just relaxed the entire day. But Steve, you know it as well as anyone, the unsung heroes in the NASCAR Cup Series and really in all of NASCAR, the hauler drivers who make sure these cars get safely to and from the racetrack every week.
Every time you bring a new fan to the racetrack, I kind of seem to ask the same questions. A lot about pit stops, a lot about, you know, how fast they go, how much banking. But then when you kind of give them a garage tour, you say, and this is the same hauler that's every single week, their head just explodes. Their eyes get huge. You're like, wait. Last week they're in California. This week they're on the East Coast. And then it's New Hampshire. And then it's Florida. And Marty brings up a great point. You know, we kind of complain if we have a connection that gets canceled on commercial flights. We get home the next day and we forget. When this checker flag ends, all of these haulers load up, most of them with 2 drivers, and they start heading south. For someone who has made the drive from basically Maine to Charlotte a bunch of times, I can tell you, it's not fun. It's a long drive down 95. So all of these unsung heroes that kind of keep the whole thing going by bringing all the equipment week in and week out. We have the same here in the NBC group. We got a lot of haulers out there in the TV compound. We appreciate it.
There's Denny Hamlin, and he's up inside the top 5, chasing after Logano, but a little bit of pressure there on his inside lap down car. 15 of Kaz Gralla, one of the New Englanders in the field, and you see Kyle Busch going another lap down. Now 2 laps down for Kyle Busch.
That changes the world. You know, there's a lot of pass from 1 lap down. You maybe could get a wave by or free pass, different situations, but once you get 2 down, it's just not good. And this is what we talked about when you look at the 22 versus the 8. I know they're kind of in the same point situation, but the difference is it just seems to me like the 22 has more firepower. Like they had, and I know they're not great at every track, but at some tracks I think he could win the race. I know the 8s had a couple good runs. They were good at St. Louis, a track that I thought would carry over to here, but whatever they had at St. Louis, they obviously don't have here this weekend.
They actually had pretty decent speed last week. They just had a couple mechanical issues that knocked them out of the race. But you can't, you know, when you're in this tight point battle, you got to have both. You have to have reasonable pace, and you also have to have reliability.
And by the way they're running, we saw the playoff bubble there. Logano, where he's running compared to Bubba Wallace, they've switched positions. So now Logano is in that 16th spot above the cut line.
Yeah, just above the cut line. I'm going to tell you, 119 laps completed. Got 67 to go in the stage. I think we're about 9 or 10 laps away from green flag pit stops. A lot of movement on pit wall. Pit crew's getting ready.
A couple early pit stops taking place here. Austin Cindric was just on pit road. Now we're seeing Tyler Reddick make his way off of pit road. Steve, still maybe a couple laps before you come in?
Earlier than I would like to, but unfortunately I think when someone on the lead lap comes, you kind of have no choice but to counter. Now we see Bubba Wallace and Kyle Larson come down to pit road. It'll be interesting to see which one of these cars start to rise the interest of the leaders, Marty.
Yeah, Kyle Larson coming down pit road, and I would say he's kind of the first of those near the top 10 to come down pit road. They were really working on the line for Larson. Car got a little bit better. He pitted from 11th, Kim.
And for Bubba Wallace, he said the car's pretty neutral right now. I could use a little bit more lateral grip just in the center, slight air pressure adjustment on those 4 fresh Goodyear tires. Parker.
Joey Logano on pit road. Joe Dilley, his first year with a 22 team. He's the front changer. Jake Simonera, the veteran and 2-time Cup champion. He's the rear changer. Graham Stoddard, the jackman. Jeremy Ogles, the tire carrier. And Nick Hensley, the fueler. Pretty quick stop for the 22, Kim.
And Marty, the most recent winner, Ryan Blaney, going to make his stop. He said, I just need a little bit more grip as his service is complete. Chase Elliott also completing service on that. Chasing the back end still needs help. A little loose. The ride also needs a little help, but I don't need to be any tighter. Marty, as Christopher Bell makes his stop.
Yeah, he has just been terrific so far. Bell pits from the lead. No real complaints with the car. Said he could be just a little bit tighter on the long run for Christopher Bell. We'll see where all this cycles out as the green flag stops continue here in stage 2 at New Hampshire.
Bottom screen on board with Martin Truex Jr. top. Christopher Bell leaves pit road. Jeff, you talked earlier, very slippery apron to get going as we ride on board with Truex. You see him up front, just out of sight. One car in front, the 20 of Bell. Nice job. Bell ran a lap later. You lose about 9/10 of a second. He had a 1.5 second lead, so that was close enough that you could argue Truex could make it up. Now for Truex, he sees the traffic in front of Bell. New tires, Jeff. It's a little slick. They don't really get into a rhythm right away. Maybe he could capitalize as Bell tries to work on that traffic.
Yeah, what Truex wants to see is the 2 wide. You can see a brake lock up on Bell. That's low air pressure. You're going to see that some. Normally it's in turn 3. That time it was in turn 1 with low air pressure. It loads the car differently under braking, and it's very easy as you're trying to attack the corner to get that left front locked up.
And I know Bell's running 7th on the racetrack. Gilliland, Keselowski, Stenhouse, Gregson yet to pit. They can run quite a bit longer, to be quite honest. They can run nearly 30 laps. So they may choose to do that. There's a few strategies that would say stay out, hope to catch a yellow. I like that strategy. You see Gilliland, his tire life is about worn out because he's on 2 tires, but fuel life would say he could run a little bit longer. Probably very similar to Keselowski and Stenhouse, which means probably a solid 30 more laps.
Here you go. Go back to this replay of Christopher Bell. See all that smoke from the left front? That's quite a bit of a lockup. The concern when you lock a tire up like that is 2 things. Number 1, it puts a flat spot on the tire. If the tire's locked up, it slides across the asphalt. The concern is when you brake, it seems to find that flat spot, and then it's easier to lock up that left front again. The other concern is that you could wear through the rubber and actually damage the tire, and you could have a blowout. Now, I don't think that was near enough to blow the tire out, but it could make it easier to lock the tire up.
You can tell that tire pressure lower for Christopher Bell. When you see those left side tires, you can see them wrinkling when they're coming back on the gas. Yeah. So not as much air pressure in these tires on the left side.
We're talking single digits, Rick. I mean, you know, maybe not quite 9, but 10, 10 and a half, 11 pounds. So one thing to complicate this even more is weather's been a whole conversation all weekend long, but it's kind of been this mist. Now on the radar, we're starting to see some real storms start to generate. Now they're way off in the distance, but as they pop up, they kind of pop up towards the racetrack. 151 is officially halfway. Yep. Once you get to halfway in the race, or stage 2 today, it would be halfway in the race. So, you know, I don't think that's changing their strategies, but I've learned in this TV booth, that's just 36 crew chiefs. I can't keep up with all of them. So someone down there might have something going on where they think the radar might be changing how long they're going to run.
All right, Marty, let's learn a little bit more about this 22 team.
Yeah, let's chat with Jake Simonera, the veteran rear tire changer for Joey Logano. So what is it like when you're doing a green flag stop at New Hampshire, and what are the challenges of that, Jake?
Yeah, it's loud, you know, pit road slick, and you're trying to watch all these other teams. You want to be the first one on pit road so you can try to jump them. So it's a lot of communicating, watching up on pit road, see which teams are getting ready to go, and you want to be the first one out there. So it's a lot of communication here, but this pit road's really slick. So a tough one.
As many key pit stops have you done in your career? Is there more pressure when you're running in the top 5?
100%, but I've always liked it. This is my 19th season in the Cup Series, so this is like an Xfinity race to me because it's only you only maybe do 2 or 3 pit stops. So it's not one of those events where you get a lot of chances to make a mistake and bounce back. So short race, so you got to nail these couple stops and make sure you're flawless. You got to be perfect to win one of these events.
Gotta love it. 19 years in the business, still one of the best, Steve. And you know it. There is more pressure when there's very few stops on the day for these pit crew members.
More pressure, and what this next-gen car has done is condensed the pit stop down to 9 seconds or even under. I've talked to a few of these pit crew members. Ryan Flores, who pits for Blaney, and I were having a conversation this week, and he said they now have new technology where it's an open mic technology. Normally, pit crew members would have to push their radio to talk to one another. Now their mics are open to one another during the pit stop because the timing is so tight that if he has an issue on the left front, the jack man doesn't even look that way before he drops the jack. His job is basically just to say jack, 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 jack over and over and over, so he knows he has to look to the left. So not only are they working, but they are talking like a good basketball team calling defense. Pit crew members now calling out in case they have an issue and have to have an audible.
How about we see Logano right now working to the inside of the 10, and let's listen in to Coleman Presley and how he calls this.
Clear, clear, clear. All right, the 20's not as good this run. Looks like the 11 fired off to be the best car. Leader just crossed the line. We are lead lap.
We saw clear, clear, clear as he was able to get by Noah Gragson. And again, Gilliland has not come to pit road yet. So waiting it out, maybe they're going to try to throw that strategy at this group, see if they can stay on the lead lap.
Well, whatever the 19 car has done to his race car, it looks better than the 20 now. He's inching in on the 20.
That'll be the battle for the lead when Gilliland is able to come to pit road.
Bill knows it. Truex up here higher. He's going to have a big run right here. He's got him.
Inside. Just you and him here. Even. Quarter. Bumper. Clear.
And so now the 19 of Martin Truex Jr. has cleared Christopher Bell. So when Gilliland
work there. 48 more
hits
here,
pit
48.
road, that will mean that there'll be a new leader, Martin Truex Jr. Josh Berry running in the 7th spot, but it's Todd Gilliland who's been out front for 12 laps here in New Hampshire. Daniel Hemrick is around, and that brings a caution out. It's the second one of the day. First one came out for the end of stage 1, and now the second caution out.
And a big break for cars that were on that alternate strategy. Todd Gilliland continues to lead this race. He needed fuel and tires, so this is a huge break for him. Other guys, Noah Gregson had yet to come to pit road. Chase Briscoe had yet to come to pit road. They're 10th and 11th. They were going to lose a ton of positions. Stenhouse Jr. back in 13th. McDowell back in 14th after that penalty earlier. So a big break for a couple drivers. This could change the outcome of the race.
Take a look at what happened.
Yeah, Daniel Hemrick running all by himself. Back of the car just comes around on him. They've been struggling all day. Just have not had any pace. He is just trying to find a little bit of speed. The car just doesn't have the grip.
All right, Steve, so we see everybody come to pit road?
I don't know if everybody will come. I think there's some, like I mentioned, the Gillilands and the ones that have yet to pit. They can't make it to the end of stage 2, so they're definitely going to have to, come to pit road. But as we see now, smoke, it looks like it's out of the pipes.
Yeah.
Perhaps the 48, yeah, that looks like a terminal type situation. White smoke out the right side exhaust of the 48. So what I was saying is some cars have to come. So we are going to see teams pit. But like Truex and Bell, for instance, they can make it all the way to the end of stage 2 from their green flag pit stop. I'm not sure pitting here is going to make a big shift to their strategy.
Yeah, this 48 car, you see the smoke coming out of the pipes. We talk about this battle trying to make the playoffs. This does not look good. They are not by any means safe. They're going to make this playoffs. This could have a huge negative impact on this team.
That sounds worse than I do.
Yeah, Rick.
Not really.
Great way to put it. Yeah, Rick, if you actually think you sound better than that, then just keep sipping your tea. We got it.
Wow, very unfortunate for the 48 team.
And you see, I know this car isn't new, but just, if you're a longtime NASCAR fan, you open the hood. Now with the hood vents, and it's really hard to access, basically. And I think pit road is open here. We will see who does what. Gilliland for sure. So we're going to see one car. We know that green 38 is going to peel left. There he is, as expected. What will everybody else do? Here you go, Truex, Bell. I think this will ask some guys to stay out. Maybe a split decision at the front of the field. This is a really good break for the 38 now. He can get back on cycle with everyone, Marty.
Yeah, Ryan Bergetti with the call. I just asked him a moment ago, how long until you had to come to pit road under green? He said, honestly, about 8 laps. Truex leaves pit road very quickly. For Christopher Bell, he said, I have got to turn better. We have gotten way too tight on this run.
Big benefit for the 38 of Gilliland. He's going to be able to, after a good pit stop, stay up inside the top 10 of the cars that were on pit road. So the caution comes out for Daniel Hemrick, spinning in 1 and 2.
Back at New Hampshire, a caution here in the middle of stage 2, in the middle of a green flag pit cycle as well. Joey Logano and Paul Wolf made the decision to stay out here. We were talking earlier about all the communication that goes into that. Why did you guys collectively decide to stay out there?
Well, I kind of could have went either way on that one. You know, kind of looked at scenarios last race, kind of similar laps on tires. We stayed at work. I would have hoped a few more would have stayed with us, give us a little more cushion. Yeah, we'll make the most of it here and then make our decision when we get to the end of the stage.
You kind of called it. You said we're going to be very competitive today, but it looks like the Gibbs cars are just as good, maybe a tick better. If you're going to win, what do you need to do between now and the end of the race?
Well, we don't fire off good enough on the short run. We need a little more turn in the car to get going on the short run. It seems like our long run hangs in there good. But we just got to be a little better on the restarts and those types of things.
All right, so Steve, short run speed, how are you going to find that if you're the crew chief of the 22?
If I could find short run speed, I'd still be on a pit box, Marty. No, I mean, the truth is, it's very hard to find short run speed without giving up long run. You can easily put air pressure in your tires and certain things that would fire off a little bit better, but you have to pay the penalty later on. I loved his kind of honest answer of what their strategy is, right? We're going to keep the track position, see what happens down the road. Another good break. Jeff, you mentioned it, 5 cars took the wave around. Even though everyone didn't pit, they were in front of the 11 who stayed out. So the 6, the 16, 41, 2, and 21 got to wave back around, gain a lap on the field. But now we have a mixed kind of field, right? We have Hamlin and Logano out there on tires that they last changed about 20 laps ago. Behind them, Truex, Bell, Elliott, they came to pit road, but only took fresh rights. They did get a little bit more fuel in. Not that they need that to get to the end of the stage, but that might speed up a pit stop later in the race. So really kind of a mixed group. Also a penalty for the 77 pitting outside the box for Carson Hocevar.
And we saw Alex Bowman. They did push that car in the garage. His first engine failure in 236 starts at Hendrick Motorsports.
We'll see now how Hamlin and the 22 do as they'll bring the field back to the green flag. And we're going to listen in to Coleman Presley once again as he will call the start of this one.
Count down to the mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. All right, you're going to get pushed here. In line, in line, in line, in line, in line, in line, in line. Still there. Still outside. Still there. Door. Still out there. Still there. Tight door. Still out there. Door. Quarter. Quarter. Still out there. Still there. Still there. Still there. Still there. Half to the little joy. Half back behind them by 3/4. Nothing in your lane. By 1 to Corey behind. Just Denny. 1 to Corey. Half to Corey. Still there. Still out there. Denny a lane up. Door. Still out there. 2 lanes up. Still there. 2 lanes up. Still there. Still there. Still there. 1 back behind them. Clear up. Half to LaJoy. You got a buffer of half. Quarter in line. Quarter in line. Higher. Half higher. Half higher. Still clear. Bell's on the bottom by 1. The 20's on the bottom by 1.
So I'm not sure I've heard a spotter use other drivers' names that much. I've always heard numbers. He started throwing out names, and it was Corey a few times, then LaJoy. He's using first and last names. Now we're 3 wide.
Hamlin, Denny, I mean, he was all over it. 3 wide here for position.
You can see the struggle on new tires. You know, you would think on new tires you could just fly up there and take the lead, but that's not always the case here. Truex way up the racetrack trying to take it away from LaJoy.
A little contact made there. And Bell's going to put the bumper to the 19 as well.
See this battle between the 20 and the 19. You want to be the first car on fresher tires. It gives you the first opportunity to get to those guys and try to get the lead. Truex is going to race Bell like it's for the lead.
You have those 2 Gibbs cars, and you have Corey LaJoy in the 7, the 9 of Chase Elliott. Right behind them, you see the 12 of Blaney in that green car with the white hood. That's that Todd Gilliland car who had such a great pit call to run long. And then Jeff, all those leaders pitted. I wasn't expecting it. That made that call even better.
That's exactly what he needed.
I mentioned a partner that was new for SHR. This is a new partner on the side for this organization as well. Grillo Pico Grillo Pico Company is on the hood of that car. Say that 3 times fast.
I don't think so, but we know Coleman Presley could.
Oh man, he could do it. They tell you who was driving it. The race is officially halfway, and that radar we showed earlier, it's still a ways away, but we are starting to hear some whispers on the radio about a time. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, everybody has an opinion, so that could change some of these strategies. I would say change the aggression, but the drivers drive like it's always the last lap anyway.
Up into the wall in turn 2, and that's Noah Gragson and, oh boy, Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch has wrecked out of this race 3 times recently. And it continues for Kyle Busch.
Tight. Chattering through the right front. No gain.
Third caution has come out now. Let's take a look at what happened.
Kyle Busch on the bottom of Noah Gragson. It's kind of hard to tell. I couldn't tell if Kyle got up the racetrack. Either way, contact sends them both around.
Gragson was 21st. Kyle Busch not on the lead lap.
I mean, just, you know, it's a short replay, so it's hard to say for sure, but it looked like that the 8, well, here we go. We're going to see this pretty good on board.
I feel like the 8 got up the racetrack, so
Totally.
just, you know, on the flat, it's really flat down there. Don't know if he got loose on corner entry and kind of chased it up the racetrack.
So, you know, if you're a Kyle Busch fan, it's obviously going to be frustrating, but what I will say is it's a good reminder that I know the 8's not having the year they want, right? But he's not in here cruising around. These are mistakes, whether it was loose or tight. You just don't see a lot out of Kyle Busch because he is overdriving the car, right? He is trying to make something happen. He is not throwing the towel in by any means. And this is what happens when race car drivers are forced to drive more than the car is worth. And that happens all the time. Could be for the lead, could be for 15th, right? And I think that's what you're seeing there. And it's, you know, Randall Burnett knows it. He's trying to make the car better. Like, they all know it. It's just, it's not easy to fix. I have had years where you just don't have the answers.
And Kyle Busch is, you know, obviously one of the best drivers this sport has ever seen, but it has been a struggle this year. And, you know, he's been vocal about it, about he needs to get a feel that is for this newer car. Feels like the car needs to be better. I appreciate the fact that he hasn't just said, hey, this team just isn't good. He's included himself in that he needs to be better, and we're going to get RCR back where they need to be. And you said it, you can see how hard he's trying. The team's working, they're working exceptionally hard too, but when you get behind, it is so hard to get caught back up.
All right, you mentioned how good Kyle Busch is. Last week, Ryan Blaney became a driver that has won in all 3 series at a racetrack. Kyle Busch has done that 17 times in his career. So that's how good Kyle Busch is, but not today.
NBC Sports coverage of NASCAR on USA is brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Only pay for what you need. Sonic. Live free, eat Sonic. And by Arc Encounter, an unforgettable experience.
What a great crowd here today in New Hampshire, and they're hanging in here. It's been a wet weekend, but they know that there's great racing in front of them still to find out who's going to win here and potentially lock up a spot in the playoffs if they could get a win and haven't yet this year. Parker.
Well, Rick, for Denny Hamlin, you know, he stayed out on this caution before this one to assume the lead there. And I went and talked to Chris Gabehart, his crew chief, and I said, why'd you guys stay out? He looked at me, he said, I don't think tires are worth it. I don't know, we'll see. And I think he was proven right there on that restart. They were able to get to the lead and started to build a bit of a lead. But now with this other caution, it's allowed some of those newer tire cars to get closer. We'll see if this plays out. But a lot of crew chiefs paying attention to the 11 car and older tires. If he's able to go and get this stage win with 27 to go, that proves tires maybe are not worth it.
That's great information, Parker. Another thing worth talking about, we mentioned the wave buys. Well, remember, you know, they got the lap back, but they weren't able to pit under the last yellow. Well, now this quick yellow kind of brings them back in the game. You think about the 10 of Noah Gragson. He was kind of in the yellow. He came to pit road. The 41 of Ryan Preece got to get fuel in the car. 21 of Harrison Burton is now back on the lead lap. 4 tires and fuel, so it's like new life. 143 laps to go on the lead lap.
Let's listen to Coleman Presley as he brings it back to the green.
Go. All right, he's got pressure, quarterback in line, quarterback in line, still there, quarter in line, tops covered by Truex, still there, trying to force middle, still out there, just Denny, still there, tops covered by quarter, tops covered by Truex, he's outside now, still there on the mid lane, trying to go 3 wide, 3 bottom of 3, 2 outside, still there, 2 outside, middle lane's clear, just 1 outside, tops covered outside Truex, tops covered by the 20, don't let them force mid on you here, outside the 20, clear the 20, just the 19 if you get there, you're all clear up, half to the 20 and then 2 to Blaney, quarter in line, he has momentum.
Just the 19 if you get there. That means there's room behind the 19. And Jeff, I hope you took notes. That's what I want to hear in race traffic when we leave here today. That gave me a lot of confidence. Like I can make some time down 106 in race traffic.
Look at this traffic.
I can't talk that fast.
These restarts are crazy here in New Hampshire, and still 3 wide for position. Right in the middle of it, the 24 of William Byron. Comes Eric Jones in the 43.
Oh, off the pace right here. I can't really tell who
Josh
that is.
Berry.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, Rick. The red hood 4 on the top was off the pace. They split him.
The Joy's trying to get by on the outside. Yeah, it looks like Josh Berry's got his hands full right now. He slides up the racetrack, maybe showing a little displeasure.
Oh, Josh Berry is not happy with somebody. Oh, my goodness. Love to see that one more time. Here we go. It's going to be a great angle. Top of the screen, kind of. No, that's just a little beating and banging farther back in the pack. I'd love to see that one more time. Exactly who ran who up. So the 38 gets the 4 and the 4 gets the 7. I see what Josh Berry's saying. He's like, hey, you know, now look, from this angle, it looks like the 4 just runs the 7 up. But when we backed it up, you saw Todd Gilliland kind of was stuck in there 3 wide. There was just not enough real estate, Marty.
Steve, I love how calm he was on the radio talking about Josh Berry. He said, can you tell the 38 to calm down? He's a rookie driver, Steve, but you never would know it. Obviously a lot of experience, but said, hey, just tell him to calm down. We got a long way to go.
Well, and that contact for the 7 car was pretty severe. You know, obviously he's running, so I don't think it broke anything, but the right side wheels are white. And the toe, you know, these things are pretty precise. I mean, look how much damage there is to that right rear wheel. You bend that toe link in or out, this car is going to drive totally different.
Austin Cindric, a close call coming off turn 4. Looks like he almost got into the wall.
51 of Justin Haley. We heard that report from Parker earlier. That black and yellow car just to the left of Corey LaJoie. Another great run, running 12th currently. A little different look at the gold wheels on the 51 this week. Hard to tell in the front what the brake does, but that right rear, the old gold anodized. It's a good look. I know you don't like chrome. How about gold? Is gold acceptable?
Gold's better than white.
Haley trying to get his pilot's license. He's been talking a little bit with Chase Elliott lately. Wants to get his private license so he can fly.
This track has gotten so wide that it's really tough to make a pass on the bottom. You see right here, 24 car. He's all the way on the flat, all the way on the apron. No banking to lean on there. Car just does not make grip. Ty Gibbs in that 54 car up there above him, way up on the racetrack. You know, the higher the groove goes, the more difficult making a pass on the low side is. It's just more grip up there. That 2 car, you said it, Steve, that was one of the wave around cars. He came in and put tires on, and now he is driven up to 19th.
Yeah, but the 10, Noah Gregson, he was basically in the accident, and here he is right in front of the 2 in 18th.
Yeah, he spun when the 8 got into him. Kyle Busch being scored 1 lap down, running in the 29th position, by the way, even after the spin and contact with the outside wall.
Every track has such a different feel. Some it's like high loads, high speed. This track in the middle of the corner, it feels like you could just run out there and just push a car in the quarter panel and it would spin out. You know, they're just all right on top of the racetrack, just trying to find their best way to get through the middle of the corner.
Yeah, and like, where's the edge? You know, there's,
boy.
Byron saves it. LaJoy, that was close.
Yeah, it looked like LaJoy had issues off the corner, had to lift. Byron is right there. Let's go check it out. It's right there, LaJoy up the racetrack. Yeah, got into the wall a little bit, came down right in front of William Byron. That's a very difficult part of this racetrack. You come out of the corner, you're kind of going uphill, and then there's a bump. And that bump right against the wall, right there, it's really hard to keep the back of the car underneath of you.
Parker.
Right, Jeff. There's also that transition in pavement from the grippy sort of asphalt you have there that's darker to that lighter asphalt. There's just not as much grip. I was very sideways there yesterday in the Xfinity race a lot, but I want to focus here on William Byron because it's amazing to me the difference a week makes in the NASCAR Cup Series. Last week at Iowa, finished second, was running down the leader, Ryan Blaney, late in that race, had a tremendous amount of speed. Today, it's been the exact opposite. They started this race in third. They fell out of the top 10 in stage 1, outside the top 15 in stage 2 as we started this stage, and they have just not been able to get that race car to do what he needs in the center of the corner all day. They just pitted on this last caution, putting 4 tires, hoping that would get them some track position. You saw that big side of LaJoy. That erased all the gains they've made. They have been struggling inside that 24 car to even get in the top 15. A really tough day, Marty.
Parker with 14 to go. A lot of talk about the potential rain coming towards the speedway. So I asked Paul Wolf a moment ago, how does that work on the 22 team? Who is watching the weather? He said, honestly, we watch it back at Team Penske headquarters in Mooresville, North Carolina. Joe Bisson, who we mentioned before, the lead strategist, he's watching the radar for us. And Steve, if their radar is correct and their prediction is correct, they expect maybe up to another 45 minutes of green flag racing here at New Hampshire. So still a long way to go. The rain looks close, but if Team Penske's right, we still got a lot of racing left here today.
Yeah, what's made it very difficult is while the radar is pretty accurate as far as precipitation, remember, the world is a new place with the detection of lightning and the safety concerns for both the fans, the operators, the spotters, everybody involved. So that's what always concerns me, right? Will lightning kind of precede the weather, and will we get a lightning hold? Once again, you know, we would be official. Now, this is an interesting conversation about the tire life. We heard Parker Kligerman's report. Well, Denny Hamlin has been able to hold off Martin Truex Jr. Now, Truex is faster, but not so fast to run him down. So now with 12 laps to go in the stage, it's not just who's going to win this stage, it's what are you going to do when the stage ends? Because I don't think it's an obvious everybody comes down pit road. As we see the Toyota driver update, Hamlin leads, Truex second, Bell fourth, Gibbs and Reddick both inside the top 15.
Joe Gibbs Racing getting a little stingy here as far as stage wins in New Hampshire. Bell won stage 1, and we're 11 laps away from possibility of Hamlin or Truex grabbing stage 2.
How popular? So let's go back to Truex in his career. He won a couple races, then he had this big dry spell, goes out and drives a 78, wins Pocono. And it's like the most popular win you've ever seen. Everybody comes and, you know, congratulates him to victory lane. Well, then he wins a whole bunch of races and people stop congratulating you. Not that he's not a threat, but now that we know this is the end, when we see another win, and I believe it's just a win, not if. For me, it's a win. I think Martin Truex Jr. will win a race. Jeff, do you think the competitors congratulate him? You know, do you think, I know he's earned the respect, but do you think the competitors are willing to go up and say, hey, man, great job, because they know this is his last full-time year?
I think they appreciate that Truex is operating at such a high level in a year where he said, I'm going to retire, right? That normally doesn't happen. Most of us make the mistake of thinking we can still do it, and we can't. And Truex has proven he can do it. And, you know, most athletes, that's a very difficult decision. And he made it. He's happy about it. He said he's relieved that he made the decision. And, yeah, because of that, I think drivers would say, hey, man, good job. You've had a great career. Now, look, nobody's going to cut him any slack.
Right.
I mean, it is not like that much respect. But he is certainly a very popular person in the garage.
Oh, I think of the list he would join, right? When you think of the names that were able to win, like you said, all the way up to the end of their career, right? Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, some of these monsters, these Hall of Famers, are these guys with such storied careers. They won right up to their last year if Truex could join that list. And if Johnny Morris is listening, whenever him and Truex decide where they're going fishing next spring, Jeff, you and I will go with them because it's going to be a heck of a trip. And you can see the smile on Johnny Morris's face from Bass Pro Shop at the announcement. They have become great friends. I think they're going to share some racing stories. It's normally fishing stories. They're going to share some racing stories.
On top of all how he runs, would anyone be surprised to see him at Phoenix racing for a championship?
No.
I would not in one bit. And you take a guy going into his last race in his last full year with a chance to win a championship with nothing to lose, that makes Martin Truex even that much more dangerous.
Well, and this screen now, Rick, as we see Ty Gibbs on the 54 in the bottom, is kind of like the conversation of Joe Gibbs Racing. We have Martin Truex Jr. and Denny Hamlin, veterans. We know Truex's situation, and we don't expect any news from Denny, but Denny's not at the first half of his career.
Right.
Self-admittedly, he's towards the twilight. Then at the bottom, you see the youngster, Ty Gibbs, right? So much was made of Hendrick Motorsports maybe 8 years ago, where they lost all of those veterans. Jeff, we saw a very significant different performance when they went young. And now look what it has done for Hendrick Motorsports in the last 5 years. So much success with those young drivers.
Parker, how about the 45 of Tyler Reddick?
Right, Rick, I got my eye on him because he's the highest of the cars that most recently pitted on that last caution, took 4 tires, and he's about to creep into the top 10. But Steve, my question to you as I look at this is you have the 11 of Hamlin who stayed out, who's proving basically that tires maybe are not quite worth what some of the crew chiefs thought. And then I look at the 45 here, who as we go towards the end of the stage, especially if you think his weather's on the other side, could potentially find himself staying out or having a very fast stop here. So I think like many of these crew chiefs watching what that 45 Tyler Reddick does and sort of was headway here because he could be in a very advantageous position, especially if you think weather's on the other side in stage 3.
Well, and Parker, I think the 45's decision really is how many other guys stay with you. I think they have too many laps on their tires to be the only car to stay out. But if they stay out and behind them, Gregson, Byron, Cindric, Preece, Harrison Burton, other drivers, Keselowski, other drivers with older tires, if he can get 4 or 5 of those to stay out behind him, then I think the idea of staying out works. And I believe that's a risk you have to take. I think Keselowski is the type of driver that would stay out. I think a Harrison Burton, I think a Ryan Preece, at some point you have to kind of shake things up. You have to try to get outside the box somehow.
So difficult to get around on the racetrack as we ride along with Keselowski and that BuildSummerAids.com on board.
Surprised this car hasn't been any better today. You know, Brad and this team are so good, and they've run well all year, but this has just been a struggle.
I mentioned popular wins. His win, at least for me, Brad's done a lot, and I was excited to see him win in his own equipment, owning part of this race team. That's a big accomplishment for any race car driver to win, but then imagine all the work you're putting in as the owner as well.
Well, and I'll say I was probably at the top of the list of saying when he made that move he had gone there and his last win was behind him. Like he wasn't going to be able to find victory lane again, just the way Roush Fenway was running. But boy, did that change with Brad Keselowski stepping into the ownership role and being able to get to victory lane again this year. Well, it's Hamlin who's out front with Martin Truex Jr. trailing. It is going to be a Joe Gibbs Racing sweep of the 2 stages. Bell got stage 1, and now Hamlin. This is his 4th stage win of 2024. Mark Truex Jr. finishing in 2nd. Logano, Bell, Blaney looks like they will round out the top 5 with Gilliland, Larson, Berry, Elliott, and Chastain. And so Christopher Bell and Logano both earning 17 stage points for today. That's big. Logano trying to capitalize, and we want to thank that 22 team for letting us hang out with them all through stage 2.
Download the official app of NASCAR and follow the action with free live scoring, in-car camera, and radio broadcast. Upgrade to premium for full access to driver audio channels and a completely ad-free experience. Search NASCAR in your app store to download and start a free trial today.
And it looks as though the field is going to make their way onto pit road, and they'll come to you first, Parker.
Right, Denny Hamlin leads them there, the stage winner. They got it on strategy, and his crew chief Chris Cabart said, all right, we think from what we're seeing now, you might have to restart back 8th to 10th. If that's the case, what do you need in the car? He needs it to turn a little better. 4 Goodyear tires for Denny Hamlin, the 11, Marty.
Parker, a massive day for Joey Logano. 17 stage points. Again, they came in below the cut line. Paul Wolfe said this could be the last run of the race with the rain coming, and a slow stop for the 19 you see on the bottom there. Truex, they proved 2 tires can work, but this stop will lose them a ton of track position, Rick. He said, I just can't get the front tires to work early in a run as Truex still sits here on pit road.
This is it. This is what you cannot have. 113 to go. 19 car of Mark Truex Jr. has given up every ounce of track position. We've said it time and time again. It's a battle for track position. You can overcome mistakes early. You cannot overcome them late. Let's see what happens. Right side looks pretty normal. Oh, right side. You cannot drop the tire without the right rear being tight. Heads up call either way. Positions lost for Truex.
Welcome back to New Hampshire here. We're going to catch up with the crew chief of the 45 of Tyler Reddick, who just took the lead up via a strategy call, Billy Scott. So, Billy, you have the rain coming. You guys pitted on lap 156, and now you've assumed the lead. Do you think you have enough fuel to get to when the rain comes?
Yeah, I think so. Everything we're showing is the rain will get here before we're out of fuel, so just a matter of how well we can hold on up front there and if we even start green flag cycles.
And did you see anything that tires could get to you guys? Did they matter enough to maybe have some more pace to get to you guys if you don't get a good restart here?
Yeah, they matter for sure, but you know, there's enough different strategies going on behind us that hopefully the guys on 4 tires that have been fast all day will take a little bit to get there.
All right, well, we'll see, guys. Big call by the 45, Marty.
Boy, Parker, you can just feel the sense of urgency pick up here on pit road. So I asked Cliff Daniels why they made the decision, Steve, for right side tires. He said, easy call in my opinion. Rain is coming. We needed the track position.
It's really, you know, the toughest thing about a rain is you're trying to figure out how far you're running, right? And that's really the question for everybody. All right, Jeff, we talked about the 19 and the pit stop. So if we go back and remind everybody what happened. Right sides come up, everything looks good. Watch the right rear. Jackman drops the jack. It's a little bit of a slow to the right rear, and the tire changer knows the right rear is not tight. This single lug nut cannot pull the wheel up tight enough to be tight with the weight of the car on the ground. If we take a look at our virtual Toyota, we can kind of show you exactly what goes on, right? Behind the wheel itself are those drive pins. We're going to highlight them in yellow. They kind of slide into the back of the wheel. When you tighten the nut, the locking mechanism needs to pop up. With the weight of the car, it just doesn't pull up enough. So this is the example of what you're trying to do. That's kind of the visual the tire changer has to say, I know this isn't tight. So I know it's a mistake, but that's much better than leaving and having a right rear wheel come off on the racetrack.
So Reddick and McDowell, they did not come to pit road, and they will make up row 1. And you've got Larson, Gilliland, Gregson, all top 5. Cindric, Harrison Burton, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, all inside the top 10. Maybe racing against weather.
Well, we've talked a lot about the rain, and you know, you just heard crew chiefs talking about they think it won't go all the way through a fuel stop before it rains, but that doesn't count lightning, Steve, that you've talked about so many times. We've had lightning strikes, puts a hold on the race, and then the rain comes. So that could even shorten this race up even more.
Yeah, we're hearing 25 miles away to some lightning, so when it gets within, I think, 8 or so, it becomes an issue. So it could be here, you know, 15, 20 minutes. Here we go, Rick. It's all on the line.
That's right. Green flag is out. Final stage here in New Hampshire. 3 wide per second.
Oh, contact between the 22 and the 9. The 9 gets spun around. They were already up the racetrack. We're going to have to see how that started, but big damage on the 9.
Right side damage here,
heavy
guys.
damage on the 22 as well. Right front not rolling. That could be day ending for the 22. Remember where he was in the points.
And that makes those stage points that he's earned so much more important. 17 points earned today by those stages.
Here we come, guys. We're middle of 3 and 4.
You hear the radio, here we come. We don't get to listen in. Left front not turning on the 9. Let's listen into the 22. Just see exactly how they go through this damage repair communication. Paul Wolf in the spotter. Right front heavy damage. Heavy damage.
Middle of the back straightaway.
So Coleman Presley, he's let the crew chief know where the pace car is to let him know when he needs to leave if they're going to try to stay in the lead lap.
About 25 seconds. 25 seconds, Grog. 20 or less.
So I know it wasn't chaos on the radio, but that shows the veteran experience on this team. 5 guys didn't try to talk at once.
Still way off.
Logano gives him a quicker point. So I know that seems simple, but you have to coach that. Not everyone get on the radio at once. Spot or handle with a pace car. As Joey Logano's crew chief Paul Wolf, just wait, let his team do his work. In the most pressurous situations, it's easy to have chaos, but it's you know, Paul Wolf is a general. He's leading this team. The coaching really shows in these situations.
It's way off, but like it's pulling different directions and stuff.
Okay, so that tape on his steering wheel, that's put there for multiple reasons. One of the reasons is the driver knows where that tape is supposed to be when the car's going straight. If it's not there, then something is bent. He also said that it's moving around a lot. You can see him working the wheel. He's trying to assess the damage.
Well, that's the result. Let's see what happened, Jeff. It was hard to see. You got Joey Logano just inside the 9. This is taking the green.
Oh, they all got bottled up on the straight on a restart. Oh, Joey locked the left front up. He locked the left front up getting in the corner, and it just wouldn't turn.
It's funny, though, because he locked the left front up, but even as he slowed down, he couldn't get off the 9. Do you think it was a mechanical issue?
Well, let's see. I don't know. I think he just got the left front locked up, and now they're just hooked together.
Wow, that was crazy looking.
But that left front is pointed left.
Run, end line, we're off, end line, half in front, still outside.
Well, maybe that's when it got damaged, that contact.
Chase Elliott's thinking, man, what's your deal?
So what it looks like to me is that, you know, judging the pace on entry speed is so difficult when you're not in the front, right? And you got a lot of cars on all different types of tires. And it looks like Joey gets in there a little bit too deep. He knows he's in there too deep. He's almost into the back of his teammate, gets on the brakes, locks up the left front, and now it won't turn. And he couldn't lift off the brake because he would have run into the people in front of him. Lifted off the brake would have helped it turn, but then he's into the back of his teammate.
This is the 5th caution that's come out, and I'm guessing right now Reddick and McDowell are loving it because that weather's getting closer. Getting ready for the restart of the USA Today. 3:01 from New Hampshire, and now closing in on the final 100 laps. But could the weather get here before the end of this one?
Well, that 22 accident, we talk a lot about playoffs. Let's talk about some other things that could upset the playoffs. How about Michael McDowell on the front row? This is a driver that's outside the top 20 in points. If he could win a race, it would upset everything. Todd Gilliland is going to restart right up near the front as well. Same thing out of the points. Gregson in 6th. There's a lot of drivers up there that a win would change the playoff picture.
McDowell in the 34. Yellow and blue. White hood. You see Joey Logano backing back into his stall. And here comes the restart. Reddick, McDowell, side by side. Look who jumped into the picture in the 5, Kyle Larson up here as well.
So Nice job by Reddick not to overdrive the top. You see back in line, popping out of the pictures, Christopher Bell, 3 wide on the bottom, trying to make this time on this new tires. I'm sure he feels the urgency as well with potential rain in the area.
Contact there, 3 wide down the straight.
I love to fire out the pipes. It's like the green light. You know exactly when everybody gets off the gas. And how about front row, guys, with McDowell and Todd Gilliland inside the top 5. There's a battle here now for the lead. Oh, the 7 of Corey LaJoie gets spun down the backstretch. No contact, caution's out. Have to see, the leaders were side by side. NASCAR, it'll be very interesting to see who will be scored as the leader because of the loop lines.
LaJoie was set 20th when he got around and brought this caution out. This is caution number 6.
And all of these cautions keep making track position even more important if that rain is coming. Corey LaJoie, 7 car, outside of 3 wide.
Ooh,
4 wide.
4, yeah.
4 wide. And we're being told the 45 of Reddick is scored the leader. Oh, that's what happened there. Ryan Preece was on the outside when LaJoie was trying to get up there.
It even kind of looks like Preece might get into the wall a little bit and comes back and catches the left rear of the 7. From that angle, the opposite. From that angle, it looks like the 7 might just keep coming up. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's probably, yeah, Corey just had no idea he was there. And it was a late move. It was a late move on the outside. Very top of the frame, you can see.
It's one of those situations that Corey doesn't know Preece is there. He has no idea somebody would even try to be there. Preece is not loving the move, but he has to go. You know, listen, we keep talking about the radar. So aren't the radios. Every spotter, every crew chief, they are literally just churning this up, just building this pressure cooker up and up and up as the rain gets closer and closer. You see now it's basically
about 8 miles.
Yeah, I'm about 8 miles away to that first little bit of green. Now remember, while there are wet weather tires, the goal of the wet weather tires are not to run in falling rain. They are to run on a wet track that they expect to be drying. I don't know what NASCAR would do, but if I'm a crew chief, I'm racing like rain would end this race. I don't believe wet weather tires were designed to try to run the last 50 laps of a race. They were designed to get the race started today if it would have been wet, or we've been short of halfway. Remember, there's a grandstand full of fans that came out, and we want to put a race on. So it'll be interesting to see what the tower says, but I have heard nothing that says we would go to wet tires to finish the last 50 laps of a race.
But as you mentioned,
there they are, though, if you need them.
They're there. And a storm coming in, the possibility of lightning there as well, and they can't run, even if it isn't raining or the track isn't wet. 4 wide, it didn't work out well for Corey LaJoie or Ryan Preece. This is caution number 6. We're getting ready for the restart. Reddick on the outside. Larson back there behind him. And now we've got McDowell on the inside of that front row. Green flags back in the air. A fight for position and knowing that weather is imminent. Every position so important.
What a mess back there from about the 4th row back. Micah McDowell drives deep into turn 3 on the inside of Reddick, slides up and has room.
Here comes Larson again.
Larson's going to chase the 45 into the corner, move him or hope he slides up. A combination of the two that lets the 5 get to the left side of Reddick. They'll be door to door down the backstretch.
For the lead, here comes Larson to the inside.
Larson all the way down to the flat, trying to roll the center with a lot of speed to get in front of the 45. Reddick not having it.
Behind them, Denny Hamlin has worked his way to the inside of McDowell. Remember, Hamlin ran well at the end of stage 2. He's trying to get back into the fight.
See Larson on that flat. He just cannot carry the speed to corner exit. The 45 in that upper lane, he's able to go to the gas a little bit sooner. Now Larson trying to show him something different, and here comes the 11 of Hamlin.
Hamlin throwing it in the inside here, trying to get by the 5. We've seen him use up Larson coming out of a turn. There's contact made. Saw it at Pocono, and once again, we'll see if Hamlin uses up the 5 here.
The 5 is right on his door, Jeff, not using that higher lane, forcing the 11 to turn the wheel and to stay lower. And Reddick is loving this. You guys run side by side for a while so I can get away from you.
Yeah, Hamlin saw what Larson was doing, running that bottom grade, and now he's trying it. But up the racetrack, oh, these guys are shipping it in the corner with tons of speed. The 11, Hamlin just runs Larson out of the lane.
Blaney comes through into 3rd.
Oh, hard contact for the 19 of Mark Truex Jr.
Lost that track position on a pit stop where they had issue with the right rear wheel. Such a good car all day long. Once you go to the back, you're into all this chaos. He was running in the 21st position, trying to recover from that pit stop. Now he's trying to refire.
AMR safety crews down there too.
It won't start.
Nope, he got it fired up.
See Truex in the middle of 3 wide. Yeah, just contact with he and Brad Keselowski. I feel like Truex was trying to get his car turned to go to the throttle. Kes is already there. You know what that is, Steve? That's racing. It just happens, you know, battling for position.
Those are the hard ones to judge because rarely do you run the exact radius of the corner, right? So you expect the 6 to be drifting up. You expect the 19 to be coming down.
Brad thinks Martin knows he's there. Martin thinks Brad, you know what I mean? They both think this is my spot. Just a small amount of contact.
And that's a wreck that I think 50 laps in the race perhaps doesn't happen. I think Brad sees a 19 coming down. He probably lifts a little bit, then he's going to lose 4 or 5 spots for doing it. And I think at this point, you just kind of hope, even if they do make contact, they don't spin out. Let's listen in what Truex had to say.
You hold the line. Nope. It just passed clean. Just get caught up here.
So that, I think, is a fair assessment of how Truex sees current racing. Because it wasn't that he wrecked me. His statement was, I just passed him clean. And I think from everything I see out the window in these races, Truex might go down as one of the cleanest racers in this new double file restart craziness era. He felt he passed the 6 clean, and then he felt like the 6 didn't hold his line. He was sliding up into him.
Yeah, the intensity has picked up on these restarts, and a lot of that has to do with this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is right on top of us.
The green is inside the circle.
Not the circle of trust, Rick.
No.
Definitely not the circle of friends.
No.
Although it could be friends for some people. You know, the strategy they built around expecting this rain to come.
And these yellows are really pretty good for Reddick, because if you look at time on the watch, if we had been running under green, Reddick might be out of his fuel window at this point. So the fact that we're having all these yellows, Jeff, is helping Reddick extend this fuel cell.
Which means another restart, which means chaos again. That's going to happen here at New Hampshire. The Grand Estate seeing a great one, but race against weather is what's on the forefront. I mentioned the way the 11 and the 5 were racing. Listen into the 5 radio.
He runs you like that every time. You know why? Because you let it happen.
Shut the f up.
Well, those two have had some goes. And Tyler Ma, the spotter, saying, hey, man, quit letting him do that to you. And Kyle Larson's like, hey, man, I got this in here. You take care of that up there.
That might be a Monday conversation.
Oh, yeah. All right. It'll be 87 to go. But will we get all 87 in? The green is closing in on this racetrack as far as weather. Reddick, Hamlin. Hamlin on the inside. Reddick on the outside.
Todd Gillen in that green and white car rolling around 3 wide up top. Great move.
And Haley in that 51 car on the bottom of 3 wide.
Blaney won a week ago in Iowa. Now fighting for second here against Hamlin. Right on the back bumper of Reddick. Close call there between the 11 and 12.
Whoa!
And once again, a little contact there out of Hamlin.
It's raining. So it's raining and starting to call reported.
Oh, and around goes Kyle Busch again in the 8. Caution comes out. Eight cautions. Kyle Busch was 24th.
This has been a few weeks that Kyle Busch wants to forget.
And a track he might never want to come back to. Take another look what happens.
It's hard to tell. They're 2 and 3 wide off there. Definitely some contact with the 47. But I don't know. You know, that's at the end of it. I'm not sure how we got there. you just can't tell. I mean, they're beating and banging. They're banging into the wall. 41 Aprice is getting turned into the wall. I mean, look, they're 4 wide at this point. All right, so that looks, yeah, that looks like 4 wide, trying to get to 2 wide. The 41 is catching the 47. Listen, you know what that is? That's a bunch of frustrated people in the back trying to make something on these restarts.
Well, we talk about it every week. It's so chaotic. Look at that. It's amazing they can make it through that without wrecking.
Yeah. We had heard some rain on the radio. Looking out the window, I don't really see
that. That might have been Reddick screaming it because he was out front.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just right there. Kyle Busch was just really trying to avoid the chaos that was going on in front of him, and there just wasn't anywhere to go. It's just a wild restart.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't rain, we're going to see more of that.
We don't see rain on this camera. Well, maybe we do a little bit.
Well, NASCAR has, you know, it's been several races in the past few years where, one of them here, where they dropped the green flag and it didn't look like it was raining on the front straightaway, and they got to turn 1 and it was pouring down raining. We had it at Daytona, had it at a few places. So NASCAR has a new process about having a way to look around the entire racetrack to make sure it's clean before they go back green, Parker.
I'm on pit road, Jeff, here down near turn 4, and we're getting some raindrops. But that I can confirm that was the 45 Tyler Reddick who was screaming about rain when you heard that radio. He actually did that on the restart. As they got to the backstretch, he cleared the cars below him and immediately lit up the radio saying it's raining, it's raining, it's raining. And obviously it did then eventually start to drizzle here. The team is confirming they believe it is raining, of course. Marty?
Yeah, and Parker, Tyler Reddick is not lying. It is starting to sprinkle here on pit road. So it's interesting because the radar really could show that it's a little ways away. It could show that it's on top of us as well. But we certainly do feel sprinkles, Kim, here on pit road.
And Marty, a disappointed Ryan Blaney confirming on the radio he does have sprinkles on his windshield. He's in that second position. He actually thought he had something for Tyler Reddick. So you know if Blaney is saying it's raining, when he thinks he has a shot to win this thing, then it definitely is coming down here at New Hampshire.
Blaney wanting to go back-to-back after winning in Iowa. Love to get back to victory lane and keep that momentum up, but a great run here.
And there's only one person at this facility that doesn't want to see this go green. Well, maybe more than one person, but the 45 team, that's it. Everybody else here is like, let's go.
Well, let's review how we got here, right? They pitted a little bit later than most of the leaders in that stage before this, and then he was 14th.
Picking up down here?
When he decided to stay out, go to the front. We heard the crew chief say, hey, we think this is going to end before the end. We think we can get to the finish. So just another great strategy call, putting the 45 in position as we see drops picking up.
And he was very clear. Yes, I think new tires are better, but I don't think they can get to us before the rain comes. And so far, he was exactly right.
Well, you mentioned it, Jeff. One reason why you definitely have to be a little more concerned is this is the track where we saw the green flag, and as the car is entering turn 1 at speed, Kyle Busch leading Truex. You see, around they both go. Heavy contact ends the day for the 18 because they drive into turn 1 in the rain. A bunch of cars almost end their day. Kyle Busch understandably frustrated. But what a year for the 45. Remember that so impressive win back at Talladega with the owner, Michael Jordan, in attendance. Denny had wrecked out, so he was watching as well. Ended up being a huge wreck between Keselowski, the 34 of McDowell, and then the Jumpman car, Boss Man on the hood with the Jumpman logo. Tyler Reddick went to victory lane. That's a pretty impressive burnout. Great looking race car. There's the Michael Jordan.
Bo was there with him.
And you think about this race team, it is a very young race team, relatively speaking. You know, the job that Denny Hamlin has done, we talk a lot about Denny Hamlin being a great race car driver. Well, he has done a phenomenal job of building this race team. He has a great partner, Michael Jordan, but Denny is the brains in regard to putting the team together, all things performance, and you have got to give Denny tons of credit.
So this is a procedure change. Normally when we see cars come down pit road, they kind of stop in line. Well, NASCAR at tracks where wet weather tires are available, they have changed the procedure where they go under red, they stop the cars in the pit stall. They do this because if they believe there is a chance to restart the race and perhaps it's necessary to go to wet weather tires, the teams already are in their pit stalls. So the tires can be changed without due or without an undue delay. Now, it'll be interesting because if you go back to the radar, right, it is sprinkling a little bit, but behind this, there are some heavy showers that I think would end the race for a visibility standpoint. When we talked to NASCAR this morning, they said, we will run wet weather tires on a wet racetrack. What would stop us from racing is visibility. Falling rain, if so much water on the racetrack, the mist covers the windshields. You see there's no windshield wipers, there's no tail lights. That was the discussion. They run those at the road courses, but there was no reason at the ovals because the drivers all said visibility's no good, and the flashing lights look like a strobe light. There's so many of them, it drives you crazy. So we'll be interested to see what the next 15 minutes looks like.
And folks, at the start of the show, the cars were already rolling, and so you're going to be able to hear the engines fire up here.
The lead portion of the race control, they're pretty back.
And listen to the fans. They've stuck it out. They want to see the end of this race. And drivers are firing the engines up now.
This is a learning experience for them as well. Many fans left because this doesn't happen, right? Many fans said, well, we've seen this picture before. This race is over. They haven't called it, but they're going to, and they went home. So we're all learning at this at the same time.
I will tell you, I wasn't convinced we were going to see this. I'm a bit shocked.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, I'm good with it. I don't have a problem with it, but
can I tell you if I'm impressed or not after it gets done?
No. You gotta pick. You gotta decide ahead of time. You bring it up though, Jet. You know, we keep saying there's so much on the line because of this, but there's never really not a lot. We've already done it at the All-Star race. So other than the class, like that's it. Those are the only two races that don't affect the playoffs. I think I would have a different opinion if this was in the playoffs. But now that we've done this here, that might give us a chance when we get into like it continues to grow.
Yeah, there's been testing done with rain tires, and but that's not the same as competition. The way you really learn is in competition. Now the negative of that is you're paying points and all those types of things. So if it doesn't work out, it really harms people. But again, every race team came here knowing that there were wet weather tires, and be prepared because we will put them on if we can.
They'll be lining them up on the back stretch. Again, they were directed to go into their pit stalls for this purpose, so that the teams could put wet weather tires on if the possibility existed that we could go back to racing, and that's what it looks like right now. So the teams are going to line back up the way they were before the red flag came out. They're doing that on the back stretch now. They'll roll around, and we heard Tyler Reddick mention, I'm going to feel it out. So under caution, he's going to feel what kind of grip he has right now with these wet weather tires.
And that's an interesting thought process. I mean, yes, you're going to swerve your tires and you're going to try to figure it out, and I think you will even try to simulate a restart. You'll put that thing in restart gear and try to launch to see how much rear tire spin that you've got. And on top of all that, Steve,
double file
restart it, which I support. I agree.
I agree.
We are a double file restart series, and except in rare incidences, that's what we do. And so we've done it on other racetracks, so why not just do double files here as well?
Well, let's not forget we saw a street course single file in the rain. So, I mean, we've seen a lot first. So I agree. I think give the double file, and if it doesn't work, we can try it again a different way. But
all the cars coming off of pit road, and the 42 is the last one to make their way off of pit road. Let's listen in on the radio for the 51 car. Justin Hayward.
There's already a lot of spray. The bottom down the front stretch here, especially from the entry to the pit road to the flag stand, has a bunch in the bottom 6 or 7 feet after you get out of the restart zone.
Well, I will tell you that is too much water to run through, but that's an area that if you're at, the water I think might be the least of your concerns.
And the caution is out. So they've rolled off of pit road. They're going to be getting in line, and they're going to do a few pace laps here.
One thing that is interesting is down the back straightaway, on the outside of the racetrack, there's actually a road course. You turn off of the back straightaway, you turn a right, you go up a hill, you run through the road course, and that's what you're looking at right there. And you can see the elevation behind that. And so I'm very curious if that water is going to continue to run across the racetrack, which, by the way, the reason those bumps are over there, that they get into turn 3 and we see left front lockups and we see the cars bouncing, that's where the braking zone is. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that impacts where they can or where they cannot brake.
2 hours and 14 minutes was the red flag portion of this race. As they were getting the track ready, they now have wet weather tires on these cars. They've adjusted the setups. They have filled them with fuel if they wanted. We're seeing somebody take on one of those puddles. Marty.
Rick, all the drivers wondering what's going to happen once we go green. Christopher Bell also wondering what's going on inside my race car. Listen to this conversation.
Adam, does my defog, is that an actual switch? Like, does it work? Yeah, it's just a little fan that blows on the inside of the windshield. You're welcome to try it. Once the car gets back up to temp, I would say most of that will go away.
Steve, I can almost promise you never had Jeff Gordon or Dale Earnhardt Jr. ask you if the defogger worked inside the race car, have you?
Oh, well, we did, and it didn't work. Matter of fact, our windshield wiper flew off that day at Watkins Glen, and the defogger didn't work. So we didn't know what we were doing. And that's the only required thing. So let's talk about wet weather for this oval specifically. The tires are obvious, but the only other thing, the teams were expected to have a defogger here. There's not an approved method. The teams kind of can bring whatever system they think will work the best. NASCAR said they would take a look at it at the beginning of the weekend, but they weren't getting into the rain business as far as how to defog your window. So you heard on the 20, it sounds like it's a little fan. I do agree with the crew chief that once we get some temperature in the car, that will help that, I think, quite a bit.
I am going to point one thing out. They were just rolling across the start-finish line. That all is painted. So that's going to be a little slicker as they're coming up through the gears and on these restarts. That'll be interesting if we'll see any tires spinning on that paint that is right at the start-finish line. Let's listen into the 11 radio.
I mean, it's really slick, just FYI.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be extremely challenging, but there's no doubt about that. But in 81 laps and counting, they're going to hand away a Cup Series trophy and pay points. So we should do the best we can.
I like that answer. I mean, I agree with what Denny's saying. I don't disagree that he has his opinion on this track. But to the crew chief's point, you know, someone's going in the record books as the winner in New Hampshire. Someone's going to score the rest of the points available.
I find it interesting. Where are they going to run? You know,
I was wondering.
Well,
that.
we saw drive, and we haven't really seen on ovals where drivers have run offline like we do on road courses. On road courses, it's very common to see drivers not run in the preferred lane and when it's dry because it's slicker there. There's rubber, there's oil, all kinds of things there. But here, we have seen drivers in the dry running way above in the older asphalt that has more aggregate. It has, see right here, there's this shinier black. That's a different asphalt than above it. And they've been above that even in dry conditions. So where is the grip? And below that, below the white line, that's older asphalt as well. You can see the color changes. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what lane you want to be in. No one else does either, but we're all going to figure it out together.
I might start at the bottom just to give myself a little bit more room if I need to slide a little.
When he said we're going to figure it out together, I'm glad that I'm in the booth figuring this out as opposed to behind the wheel of one of these race cars.
The one thing I'll say is this is opportunity. And if you think about, you know, opportunities in sports, there are unique situations that get presented to you, and finding a way to excel in those moments, that's what the best do, right? And tough moments, challenging moments, and that's what this is.
Well, just 30 cars on the lead lap. Everybody has wet tires. Everybody has enough fuel. So at this point, you know, there's really not a lot of gamesmanship on strategy. It's 30 cars trying to figure out a way towards the front. Parker.
Well, just to add on to Jeff's question about lane choice here, when I was talking to Tyler Reddick after we had our interview, he told me that he felt like maybe the middle of the darker asphalt, the newer asphalt, was best, and his reason, because there wasn't as much rubber laid down there when we were running in the dry. He had noticed that it was kind of a no man's land, and therefore, in his mind, that might potentially be the best place to run, but you won't find out until they get running, Marty.
So, Parker, remember that question that Cliff Daniels asked me, is it going to be a competitive stop once we get off the wets later on and go to the slick tires? Still hasn't gotten an answer from NASCAR, so he went public with that question. Listen in.
Hey, NASCAR, we would love to know if we're going to run to a caution when we think it's dry, or if you're just going to leave it open and pitting is on us. Would love to know that.
So that question went out. He's still waiting on the answer from NASCAR. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch, who's sitting back in 30th, is having an issue on the track, and he has climbed out of the car, Rick.
Yeah, he parked the car, and that is on the exit of turn 4. Parked the car and got out of it.
This has not been a good day for this team.
AMR safety crew is going to pull that car back into the garage.
You know, as crazy as it sounds, as much trouble as they had until this, whatever's happened here, they were still in the lead lap. And who knows what's going to happen? They could have actually picked up a lot of spots.
Oh, he hit the wall.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't know if something broke on the car or he just lost traction. I know they've been working on the car. Back to the Cliff Daniels conversation about pit road. So here's really what his question is. NASCAR has said that there are really 2 decisions to be made, right? There's the cars on the racetrack and the race condition and all of that. But then there's also, hey, if we have to either put another set of wets on, are we okay with live pit stops? And I think that decision needs to be, considered with a little bit more care, because you have these humans that have to jump over and do the pit stops. So looking at pit road, I mean, it's basically soaking wet. I don't see any dry spots. I would be a little surprised if we went to competitive pit stops. I would prefer competitive. I think that I'm a big fan of competition. The more competition, the better. The best team should win. But there has to be some sort of limit. We'll see what NASCAR says. There's no real standing water on pit road, so it's not a puddle situation, but all of pit road is wet. And with all of the lines, sometimes the lines are the slickest part.
You see these drivers, they're going down there looking for those puddles, trying to keep their tires cool. That's the opposite of what we normally see. Normally we see drivers trying to heat their tires up, but they're trying to cool them off to make sure they don't wear out quickly. Now, this was a very strange event right along. I don't know if he had a mechanical issue, if he had some sort of, I don't know. It's hard to imagine. All right, Marty, what do you know?
Well, I just asked Randall Burnett, and he said, I have no idea. He said it just absolutely took off on him. He said, I don't know if something broke. As you guys mentioned, they've been having some issues today. They have made some repairs to the 8 car, so they don't know. They're not going to know until they get back to the garage area. But, Jeff, I would challenge you to find a worse 4-week stretch in Kyle Busch's career, maybe. It's just been not a good month for this race team.
All right, we're choosing. We're coming to the green right here. So Reddick takes the top, Blaney takes the bottom. I couldn't even tell you where to choose, Jeff.
I wouldn't know either.
Well, we're going to learn together, as you just mentioned, Jeff.
Yes, we are.
We are going to see what happens here. There have been 226 laps of this 301-lap race complete. That leaves 75 to go. When they come back by, it will be 74, and they are on wet weather tires. This is a damp racetrack. The rains came through. They dried it. They cleared the puddles, and now there's 34 cars that are on the track. Busch and Bowman out, but the 34 cars will be making a restart here to find out who does get that trophy at the end of the day and those points. They're going to send him around one more time.
Oh.
Maybe that tells us what the grip level is going to look like.
Okay, so I've seen 2 cars have issues under caution. And if I'm a spotter, what am I saying to my driver? Like, there's just been 2 cars, 2 really good race car drivers. Just apparently Corey clearly just lost it. We don't know what happened with Kyle Busch, but I mean, that just makes me even more nervous for the start of this race.
Well, there is an argument, if you're Reddick and Blaney, you kind of have to go. You're at the front. But when you look back to guys that don't have track position, I'll say a Briscoe, Stenhouse, Ty Dillon, Kaz Gralla, you know, there's only 3 or 4 cars behind you on the lead lap anyway. This could be one. You know, you can wave cars by. You don't have to start double file right in the middle of this. I know that might be an unpopular conversation, but the best strategy for some of these guys might be to wait and see. I'm going to hang on back. You know what? You let me know how much grip is down there. I'm going to give it a lap.
Been a few races won like that at Talladega.
Right.
They are going this time.
Green.
And again, it's Reddick and Blaney making up row 1. Reddick on the outside in the 45. Blaney on the inside in the 12. The crowd is looking forward to this. A restart on wet weather tires in New Hampshire. They're back under green. Here we go, into 1.
Ryan Blaney running the bottom. Christopher Bell, 3rd lane on the wall and on the gas. I think he passed 4 or 5 cars in 1 set of corners. He's the 3rd car on the outside, the black and white car. Here goes Bell again to the top.
4 and 5 wide going through the turns here in New Hampshire.
I want to applaud the drivers. This is an amazing effort by drivers who are willing to try something that has never been done.
And Blaney fighting for that lead with Reddick. Reddick out front. Blaney, Bell, Larson, Gilliland. Blaney got a little loose, lost some ground. Bell is up there now into 2nd. Larson 3rd.
Now we see everybody seems to be a little more comfortable to answer your question. The top 2 lanes, whether they're ending up there or they're pointing there. That last lap by, remember, 30 flat was the fastest lap of the race. Reddick that time by about a 35 seconds, so 5 seconds slower. But we expect that to continue to improve as Bell dives to the bottom of the racetrack. It's like a dirt race. We have one on the bottom and one on the cushion.
Yeah, Larson up high. Those 2 fighting for 2nd.
How about Todd Gillen, that bright green 38? He had enthusiasm when we heard from him. He saw this as an opportunity, and here he is chasing it up to the fence.
$34.85 for Reddick that time by.
Yeah, I think every lap they're going to go quicker. Confidence, maybe a little bit drying, although you can't visually see it drying. I think it's more of a confidence situation. Bell and Larson look like they're running at Knoxville from a week ago. The dirt track down the street looking for a little bit of traction on the bottom of the racetrack. You know, when the dirt race gets slicked off, you try to keep that left rear in the moisture.
They look for moisture. That's what they're doing here.
They are on, as you see Kyle Busch walking away, not the day he hoped for. What a show these drivers are putting on.
1.6 seconds separating Reddick and Bell.
You know, the line's constantly changing. A lot of guys jumped up to the very top of the racetrack and made good position doing it. Some others on the very bottom of the racetrack.
And remember, there's progressive banking here in New Hampshire. So it's 2 degrees at the bottom, 7 degrees at the top. That's not a lot of banking, but there is more banking when you get closer to the wall.
I mean, Josh Berry, Chase Elliott up over 10 positions since the restart. So drivers are finding it, figuring it out. Lap time pretty flat now. Like, I don't think the track is improving.
There's a visibility, you know, not bad at all.
Agreed. Look at Ryan Preece up 14 positions. Josh Berry up 12. Truex is asking himself what he has got himself in the middle of. He is 21st.
Carson Hocevar on the apron there, right in front of Brad Keselowski. And the caution comes out. We got a spinner.
Stay low.
Ross Chastain. Ross was running in the 6th spot when he got around, and the caution comes out.
What'd you hit? Anything? No, sir.
Okay, I want to give it to Ross. To ask him on the radio, what'd you hit? No, sir. Not screaming, not complaining about conditions, not anything. Just focused at the task at hand.
With the caution coming out, as we take a look at what happened with Ross Chastain, there he was around
Yeah, just it's kind of late to tell. He was on the flat, which is where everybody looks like they're kind of running.
Yeah, it's hard to know what happened there. You know, we were wondering about the pace. I mean, we were running 35-second laps, which is, you know, about 4 seconds off.
He was on the apron and then came up off the apron, got into the gas, and that's when he went around. Maybe even on the paint.
Yeah, well, I don't know if Justin Haley was behind him. I don't know if there was contact there or not. You see everybody looking for these puddles to cool their tires off.
Which is interesting because, you know, without it being a dry line, I don't know what the tires look like if we took them off right now.
Well, I don't think this hurts anything, right?
Agreed.
By going down there and trying to cool them off. I don't think that you would be looking for that under green flag conditions.
Not yet. There might be a chance if it
Correct.
get dry enough where that might kind of, whatever they're doing, they're all kind of agreeing on. I kind of like what Reddick's thinking, though. Let's cool those right sides off.
It's Reddick, Bell, Larson, Blaney, Gilliland, Justin Haley, Josh Berry, Michael McDowell, Denny Hamlin, and Chase Elliott. They are the top 10 scored here.
Saw John Hunter Nemechek flying by on the screen. He was the first car 1 lap down, so he's getting back in the lead lap. That could be huge. You know, he's back there in 30th, but we saw some guys make huge gains toward the front. So getting back in the lead lap's a big opportunity.
I'm going to have to admit, I was entertained. The drivers, you know, I said it early on. I want to say it again. They did a heck of a job. I mean, to do this under competition. Guess there's a reason. Best stock car drivers in the world.
Parker.
Hey guys, I was just listening to the radio of Tyler Reddick. He has not said much on the radio describing what that race car is doing, but his team has done a lot of description around what Christopher Bell has been running line-wise. So they were explaining to him basically the line and how he was exiting the corner because Christopher Bell was starting to gain time on Tyler Reddick. If you saw, Tyler sort of stuck to that middle lane, which he told us beforehand. He was going to go to the middle because he felt like there was less rubber laid down there when we were racing in the dry. Sure enough, that looked like the lane, but that Christopher Bell was starting to find speed using that apron on the X of the corners. The team was describing that to him. And I know for all the unknowns and all the uncertainty, you know, when I listened to the radio, it sounded just like some Cup Series teams and drivers trying to figure out how to go faster than other Cup Series and teams and drivers a bit 5 seconds slower right now.
Brad Keselowski in the 6 on pit road. They have to stay on wet weather tires. So NASCAR has deemed this that they will have to maintain the wet weather tires. They cannot change to slicks when coming to pit road. The caution has come out. We'll have a restart when we come back. Jeff, I think you put it best. We're all kind of watching this evolution take place, and we were under the impression that they were to maintain the wet weather tires or stay on wet weather tires. They couldn't change to slicks, but what NASCAR was telling them was they could not change tires from the wet weather tires that they put on. So they're going to ask those drivers that came to pit road to go back on pit road and put those tires back on those that came onto pit road to change them.
Yeah, so basically you were allowed to come down pit road and make adjustments. You would lose your position on the racetrack, but you would not be able to pass people who also pitted. So the order in which you entered pit road would be the order in which you exited pit road. But the communication was stay on wets. I took that as what you just said, Rick. You must stay on that type of tire. What they meant was stay on this specific set of tires. They wanted to keep everybody the same. So we'll have to see some corrections by a few of the teams.
All right, so now they have some laps under their belts. Look, I got to get back to racing. I got to win this race. So I just had some laps. So now I have a much better idea how hard I can drive this car, where I want to put this car. If I'm a driver, I'm looking to see if there's any drying going on. If there's any part of the racetrack that looks drier than the other, that's what I'm looking for.
Because I will say the last couple laps, I thought Bell was catching Reddick a couple 3/10 a lap. Whether that was aggression, right? And Reddick's kind of just driving out of his mirror thinking he's minding the gap or not.
Yeah, we had two cars that picked up a lot of positions. Ryan Preece picked up 15 spots. Josh Berry picked up 13 spots. Both of those as SHR cars. So we wonder if there is, you know, some sort of setup change that they've made, or is just the setup they started the race with good for rain.
All right, how crazy is it up front? Well, it's pretty crazy. We're going to watch this restart not only from the front and watch kind of an overview, but also these guys in the back. Martin Truex Jr. and Brad Keselowski, just how crazy it is back here. 60 laps to go in this race.
Go.
Instantly looks a little bit more aggressive than the first restart.
And a lot more cars on the apron.
Well, Christopher Bell easily goes by the 45 of Reddick to take the lead. Bell now the leader of the race. Bell goes right back to the bottom. Reddick the middle of the racetrack. Larson follows Bell to the bottom.
Blaney up there in that third groove.
I think Bell has something figured out. It looks like he's a lot more confident from the middle off, running that bottom of the racetrack.
Noah Gragson way up the racetrack.
And Hocevar was even higher up the racetrack than Noah Gragson. It looks like it's drying on the backstretch. In the center of the backstretch, the track is drying. In the corners, still wet.
We had mentioned about 35-second laps last time. Now we're down to 34.80s. Three and four wide in the back. Why up front, though? It's
5 wide, too.
Up front, it's two distinctly different lines. We have Bell clearly running the flat apron of the racetrack. Reddick chasing him to the bottom. Now Larson to the bottom. Blaney running the third lane.
Look at this mess.
So Bell's running 140 miles an hour when he gets into the turn. That's only about 10 miles an hour slower than what they were running on slicks. A little contact there. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. right in the tire tracks of that 19 of Martin Truex Jr. So many in the middle of the racetrack, but they're everywhere on this track, from the apron all the way up to the wall. Here comes Blaney.
Larson way up the racetrack right there. Blaney all the way on the bottom.
Larson holds him off. Here comes Buscher. There's Harrison Burton making the pass on Hocevar. They're not really going to try a specific line because nobody's running the same line. Cars are all over the racetrack.
That definitely is making a difference for sure.
Kim.
And Ryan Blaney had asked his team, what is the preferred line? They said there are guys all over the place, but Bell is making up a lot of time on the apron. So then you saw Blaney use that apron. That car right now, though, just very tight. Maybe didn't free it up enough for these wet weather tires, Marty.
Kim, when you look at lap times, Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson really have been the two quickest. They're in first and third right now. Jeff, coincidence or not that both of those are dirt drivers from their background? I don't know that dirt experience would translate to wet weather tires for me, but maybe so. What do you think?
Well, maybe not the actual experience of dirt, but the experience of looking for the best lane. In dirt racing, that happens much more than it does in asphalt racing because the track changes so quickly. Dirt racers, it's a skill and an art to finding where your car is the best, and I think that willingness to go try things is probably comes a little more natural to those drivers.
You can see the lap time to the left. Bell is 3/4 tenths of a second faster than his competitors behind him. 2/10 of a second that time.
Look at this racing in the back. We see this every week. I mean, this guy's back here, it is wild.
This is wild, what we're witnessing right now. Larson putting the bumper to the 45 of Reddick.
Didn't take him long for it to turn right back into a very competitive race, pushing and shoving. Blaney is going to try to roll the outside. He's going to get to the outside of the 5. The 5 has to give him the top. Blaney might turn left to take the bottom, or will he commit to the top at this end of the racetrack? Back to the top.
Trying to complete the pass now. Blaney with the momentum on the high side, a little bit drier asphalt up there. But he might not want that as he goes by Reddick on the high side.
What's interesting, and even in these crazy conditions, Jeff, how consistent the leader's lap time is. Like, I mean, he runs, I can't go to the go-kart track and run with a couple tenths of a second each lap, and he's running it consistently, although that lap right there, a big pickup down to a 34.50. So either a confidence or drying, probably a little bit of both.
These race car drivers, that's what makes them great, is that they immediately can find the grip, get on the edge of it, and do it every lap.
Reddick falling back a little bit, Busher to the middle of the track. Blaney's worked his way up to second. He got by Larson. You start to see a little light patch where the left sides are down the front stretch.
Well, see, that's an area I would try to not be in down the straightaway. I try to be in the wets just to keep my tires cool with all the wet weather experience that I have.
Yeah, I would actually say it's actually, of all tracks, this might be the hardest to really visually see how it dries because it's already so different color-wise in the corner. That's a great shot. You see kind of standing water by the barrier where the cars are running, no real spray.
But definitely the pace has picked up on corner entry. Drivers have gotten much more confident, carrying a lot of speed on the entries.
Yeah, Blaney, another 4/10 off Christopher Bell's lead. So the driver of the 12 has found something. His car is driving better. He's finding something.
We talked about Bell and Larson and their open wheel experience as far as dirt track sprint cars. How about the 14 of Chase Briscoe? He has gained 13 spots since the restart. And by the way, he ran the flat track in a wing sprint here on Friday.
So I don't know. Look, I agree with Marty that I don't think it's something like, oh, this is what they do on dirt, so they're figuring it out here. I wonder if it's just a mindset, Jeff, right? Like at dirt, every corner is a different corner, where asphalt is about repetition and hitting this, 1 or 2 inch mark every time you roll into the corner. Dirt, you just have to adapt, move all around as the track continues to change.
I think there's no doubt about that.
Parker.
Well, guys, when we stopped this race a couple hours ago when it was under dry conditions, that 11 car, Denny Hamlin, was battling for the win. They won stage 2, and since we've been on wet tires, he has dropped like a rock back to 14th place. The positive note is that it seems like some of his lap times have started to level off the others. He hasn't said much across the radio, but this has not worked for the 11 team for being on these wet weather tires. He's fallen all the way outside the top 10.
Hamlin back to 14th now. And remember, Hamlin, stage 2 winner. It's Martin Truex Jr. now behind the 11.
Now you can see the lane really starting to dry down the straights. See that? It's getting drier every lap.
144 was Bell's speed when he got into the turn that last time.
And Blaney has closed the leader's gap down to 1.4 seconds. 46 laps to go in the race. We haven't heard from NASCAR whether they believe this set of tires can run that distance or whether a caution will be required.
Steve, one thing I think is worth thinking about as well is we know that this car performs its Corey LaJoie around.
So that'll bring the caution out. This is an opportunity. Does NASCAR say come to pit road and change tires?
Corey was running 30th. That was a 15-lap green flag run right there.
Everybody looking for wet.
We see the dry up against the outside wall. That little lane that has dried. Here's Corey.
Yeah, Corey on the bottom of the racetrack trying to make a pass and just did not have the grip he was expecting.
Logano slow to avoid that. So 10 cautions here at New Hampshire. Everyone with the exception of Bell. Bell's going to come over now and try to get some water on these tires.
You know, I'd be a little nervous down there, Steve, just because if you think about debris and items on the racetrack, that's where it always ends up. You would never go down there on slicks because you'd be afraid that it would puncture your tire. And I would be nervous about going down there.
Yeah, now we have a couple. I'm not sure what's going on. The 99 and the 47 look like they're running a little bit faster than others.
This is going to be non-competitive pit stop, so they're not allowed to take tires if you come to pit road. You can make adjustments, you just cannot put different tires on.
Yeah, so if I can't change tires and I'm anyone inside the top 20, I'm not going to pretend I know what the magical adjustment to make this car better on these wets. Now, maybe if I'm outside the top 20, and Jeff, to your point, I'm like, hey, this thing is just so tight. If you just freed it up, well, the chassis is still going to work like a chassis works, whether it's on wet tires or dry. So I would come down and make, you know, some adjustments there. But I would not think I'd want to give up track position to do it.
And we saw the 99 go around a bunch of cars. That's because I believe he was, well, no, it wasn't. Not saying he might be the first car lap down, but not sure. But I believe the 47, I believe what he was doing was he was thinking that these guys weren't maintaining proper pace. So he just jumped up there to say, hey, they're not maintaining pace. You have to maintain pace, and trying to take a spot. And NASCAR went, that's not how the game we're playing today.
The 99 was the free pass, Jeff. Look, LaJoie's a lap down now because of the wreck, but at the time of the yellow, Suarez was the free pass.
10 miles an hour under caution. They're not keeping up.
There you have it. That's what.
Listen to me. It doesn't matter. They're telling us to get behind the 24. Let's get behind the 24.
Yeah, that's the game they were trying to play. Is you have to maintain pace. So they're like, hey, they're not maintaining pace. I'm going to go past them. NASCAR's like, look, this is a unique situation. We're not doing that today.
Marty.
Rick, this is truly uncharted territory. You guys mentioned that NASCAR told them no new tires here. Both Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson. Both, however, Steve said on the radio, I would really like it if NASCAR allowed us to have new tires here. Here's what Christopher Bell said a moment ago.
Still too wet for slicks, huh? Oh, yeah, way too wet for slicks. 10-4, are these tires going away? I mean, I think it's definitely time to have the field put tires on, yeah.
And so NASCAR, to this point, has waved it off. Steve, you kind of said this would be an open dialogue all day long, right, on these wet tires. But that first two guys, or the first and second or first and third driver, say, hey, I think it's time for some new wets.
Yeah, I could argue both sides. I mean, I agree with Christopher. Why not just take them off and see how much damage there is to them, if there's any damage? And at the same time, I could say, well, let's not change them yet. There's 42 to go. If we get another 15 or 18 or 20 laps, we might be able to put a controlled yellow out and then let this race run 20 laps to the finish.
Pit road is open, but again, they are not allowed to put on different tires. They can make adjustments if they want, but they have to stay on these wet weather tires that they've started this wet weather run.
So you mentioned it, Briscoe moved up. Busher gained some spots right there.
And it looks like we've got Corey LaJoie making his way onto pit road. Parker.
Well, guys, we mentioned how Denny Hamlin had fallen like a rock there as we got going on these wet tires. He had a really interesting radio conversation with his crew chief, Chris Capehart, when they were trying to explain to him how the 20 was going so fast. Take a listen.
You're lifting quite a bit earlier than they are.
To run on the apron, you're saying he's going deeper. I don't understand how he's holding it.
I don't know, bro. That's the data. That's all I can tell you.
So, Steve, what do you tell your driver in that situation when he's saying, wait a second, I don't understand. How is he going that much faster into the corner? There's not enough grip. I also might add that Denny did say about his race car that when he was above the tarmac, the blacker, darker tarmac, he said the car just went straight. It would not turn up there.
So I will give Chris Capehart, I love the, I don't know, bro. I'm just telling you what the data says. Like, I'm not driving. It's tongue-in-cheek, but I actually like how they're trying to work through it. Like, hey, Denny, I'm looking at the belt. Here's what he's doing. Denny kind of has a retort like, well, my car won. I'm like, I believe what you're saying, but I don't know what to tell you. This is just what the data says. But how about that, Jeff? I mean, they're instantly trying to find speed by comparing how Bell is driving with the lead.
Well, I can tell you what I think it is that the slower this car goes, think about it, the slower this car goes, the more it's a disadvantage to be back in the pack because you lose more downforce.
Yep.
And these cars are going much slower than they were going before. So track position may be even more important to get that downforce that you want in the race car. And when you slow the pace down and you don't have as much downforce and then you lose some more, it's a bigger loss.
I'm going to tell you, though, Rick, I'm not a race car driver. But if I feel like I'm out of control, so the fix is driving faster, that's, man, I'm having a real, my brain is having a real struggle with that one.
All right, so Xfinity fastest lap. Let's take a look at what it was with slicks and now what we saw with Christopher Bell, who's actually turned a very impressive lap at 34 flat. But on slicks for Chase Elliott, it was 30 flat. On rain tires or these wet weather tires, 34.86, so almost 5-second difference.
Well, remember, Chase was in that wreck with Truex. No, excuse me, with Logano. Logano kind of went in there. That's what the damage you see on the left front. Chase is all the way up to 12th. All right, last restart definitely looked different, Jeff. We'll see if this is yet even more aggressive in the braking zones.
39 laps to go. Bell on the outside, Larson on the inside, back up through the gears they go. A great restart for Blaney. That outside line works for him. He takes second away.
Yeah, and a lot more commitment of corner entry speed on the restart.
Chase Briscoe in the 14 also utilizing that apron. Bell, Blaney, Larson, Reddick, Berry. That's right, Josh Berry up here now in the 4. Running in that 5th spot.
Look at that line now. It is really starting to dry out.
That's Briscoe in the 14. That orange and blue car goes right down to the flat. This lap looks faster. Let's see. Low 34s were the best we had seen. Bell this time. Oh, yeah, 33.6. Big chunk of speed pickup. And to your point about the dry line, that time down the front stretch, Bell swerving like he's trying to get out of the dry line. We'll see if he does it on the back stretch. The leaders.
Oh,
big
wreck.
1 and 2, big wreck, yellow.
Gregson, Austin Dillon, both around. We saw the 43 of Eric Jones avoiding.
Austin Cindric in it.
71 also caught up here. Zane Smith.
Bubba Wallace.
Big wreck.
Yeah.
Again, a playoff contender. He is right on the cut line right now.
The thing just looped around on me.
Prior to that wreck, he was +5 ahead of Joey Logano.
You heard him say it just looped around on him. This car is done. Window net down. All right, Noah Gregson on the bottom of the racetrack. See Denny on the outside. The 10 just comes right around, takes the 23. Austin Dillon, been that kind of year for Austin. He is, if he's in a place, there'll be a wreck in front of him. It's just been terrible.
Pretty big hit right there for the 23.
And this is what we talk about. You know, everybody's like, hey, let's go, it's rain tires, but it's inevitable people are going to overstep their bounds, trying to learn how much grip these tires have, how hard can I push the race car. It's just a learning process. You can point your finger at Noah and say, you know, you shouldn't have done that, but it could have happened to anybody in my eyes.
Running along with the 6. Watch his right rear tires. Well, already happened there, but the right rears were on the paint when that thing started to go around. The painted line. Oh, excuse me, the 10, yes.
Yeah. 23, obviously not happy. Well, maybe he's a little short of his own stall. Maybe a quick run in there. I thought he was trying to say something to the 10, but maybe that's just where it stopped.
Yeah, look, I think this is one of those situations where when somebody makes a mistake, I understand you'd be upset, but this is just demanding. It's very easy to overstep your bounds here.
There, Bubba Wallace has made it back up into his stall.
Yeah, I was wondering if that's just where it stopped, but on that replay right there, I think that was on purpose. Bubba wanted to let the 10 know that he's frustrated with him. Got to be careful, Bubba. NASCAR definitely doesn't look. They look much different when things start to happen on pit road with crew members out there. There were some 10 crew members out there. Now, that wasn't super egregious, but, you know, it goes down a slippery slope when you start getting near other people's pit boxes.
So look at the playoff bubble. Look at what just happened there.
It has changed.
Yeah, that is why this is so important, and that is why, even though it is a demanding situation, Bubba Wallace is upset because he had Joey Logano in a position where he was wrecked, was not going to have a good finish, and he's not able to capitalize on it. He did nothing wrong. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and obviously you can see it was a hit as well.
Yeah.
And Bubba Wallace will have to make his way into the infield care center to get checked out. We saw the AMR safety crew member there. The medical team is going to come over and check him out, get him into the infield care center.
You hope he's okay. I mean, you know, we forget. You know, we say, hey, he's okay, he was released from the infield care center. We don't go home with him.
Right.
And trust me, these things hurt.
There he's going to make the walk.
Rick, you mentioned the paint. We've taken another look at this. I don't have enough experience on an oval, but I know in the road courses, the paint definitely looks, you know, a little bit slicker. The 10 goes in. Look at the right rear. It kind of gets right on that paint and kind of stays on the paint and snaps right around. Now, look, last run we had cars running all over the racetrack. There were some on the apron, so I can't say with confidence the paint was the difference this time or whether it was just speed, but it definitely was that right rear on the paint. Here's that impact you talked about, Jeff.
Front tires came off the ground, and the angle of that impact, Steve, is why it was so severe. I mean, it was essentially a head-on impact. You know, it was not a glancing blow by any means.
All right, so they're going to be allowed to come onto pit road. And Steve, go ahead and explain what they're allowed to do here.
So it sounds like, if we're understanding this right from NASCAR, they're non-competitive pit stops. You can change tires, but they must be wet. So let me unpack this. In my opinion, that means you don't have to pit. you could stay on the racetrack. If you do pit, you must change tires to another set of wets, and you can't lose position relative to the cars that pitted. So you don't have to be in a hurry on pit road. The idea is, let's take our time on pit road, both as a crew member and a driver. But it's going to be real interesting to see if the option is, because pit road's still closed. Because if it's the option to pit with 33 to go, do you pit, or does somebody stay out and risk it?
And the risk being that the tires will eventually wear out, and that's how much experience do these teams have to be able to understand if they can make it or not. And I think that's why this decision is difficult. But as you can see, the track is starting to dry. And every lap it got drier and drier, and that will without a doubt wear the tires out.
So I will tell you though, as I'm reading through a lot of these radios, I'm hearing different stories. I'm hearing we can't take tires, we have to take tires, we might take tires. So, you know, when we talk about this learning experience, this communication,
wet weather tires.
You know, wet weather tires. So I understand that if you pit, you have to put wet weathers on, and I understand it's not competitive. I'm crystal clear on that. What I'm not completely clear on is whether you must pit. That's a very different opinion, because if you are, whoever, pick a guy in the back that's just not going anywhere, you know, do you stay out and say, well, let's see if these tires can make it? I mean, what do you have to lose if you're certain drivers in the back? Let's see, though. Maybe everybody will come down pit road. It won't even be a story. Oh, now the story is you must pit. Okay, that's not what we were told the first time.
I'm okay with the must pit.
I love it. I think this is actually the decision that should have been made.
And the reason is because I just don't think the teams have enough data to know when the tires are going to wear out. There's just not enough experience. So take that off of the teams. Now, in the future,
Agreed.
I want it to be on the team's decision when to put tires on, whether to put slicks on or not, but we're not there yet, Parker.
Right, as we look at Tyler Reddick there in the 45 come to his pit stall, he was on the radio as he found out they were going to be changing tires, and he wanted to know what the state of those tires that are coming off the race car, what they looked like, and what the wear was like on them, so he can sort of judge how much he can push on these, Marty.
Again, non-competitive stops. That's why you see everybody moving very slowly. Christopher Bell agreed with this call from NASCAR that fresh, wet tires would help everyone. He said he needs a little bit too tight, a little more turn. Center exit Kyle Larson has already left pit road. He said it still turns really well, but I could stand to be tighter as well.
And for Ryan Blaney there, the crew chief Jonathan Hassler reminded the team, take it easy. We don't need to make any mistakes here. You will get your spot back. Ryan saying it's just a little too tight. I need more turn, maybe a number more on the turn. So they did make an air pressure adjustment on those wet weather tires, Marty.
So Kim, the competitive or non-competitive pit stops are over with. There you see the wet weather tires that came off. I think they look fairly good. But is there a bigger problem for the leader, Christopher Bell? Listen in.
Hey, I've got the orange triangle on my dash for some reason.
Must be volts.
Yeah, I just shut my cool shirt off and the volts are good, but my alternator switch is on.
If you go to page 5, you should get volts on the upper center left on top.
Yeah, I'm at 13.5, 13.6.
So Steve, once he turned off the cool suit, it did go back up to 13.6 on the volts, 31 to go. Obviously, water and electricity never mix, do they? How worried are you if you're Adam Stevens?
I was worried until he gave me 13.5 or 13.6. That doesn't concern me very much. You wonder, I don't know if it's a rain thing or maybe like an RPM thing, you know, with the pace being down, maybe the engine's getting in a really awkward RPM, you know, for the alternator to activate or charge, but we'll have to, I mean, it's good to keep an eye on. He's obviously at whatever the orange triangle is, it got his attention, which is good. He's made adjustments to it, shutting off the electrical draw. If we go back, those rain tires that were on pit road, I thought they looked really good. First, you know, the Xfinity Series, we saw some blistering, some popping. So if we just stay right here for a minute, I mean, you could see that there's some graining, being like this waviness right here. That's kind of graining, meaning that, you know, the tires being balled up in that direction as you go around the corner. But I've seen it much, much worse on dirt tires, to be quite honest, that run on clay down in South and North Carolina. So those tires right there look great. You know, it'll be interesting as the track dries, the temperature's going to go up where wear will increase, but then that blistering could happen.
And this next set of tires won't look that good, I don't think. I mean, we're already seeing some drying on the racetrack. Austin Dillon was in that wreck just a few minutes ago.
Yeah. Smoke rolling out on the left side.
It's bent, it looks like.
Tire rub.
Yeah. Let's listen into the 8th place running car, the 17 of Chris Buescher.
Yeah, tires were all good there. That was 20, 22 green laps on them. Simple. A lot drier now, so definitely going to take a beating this time.
So now, this is an interesting thing, right? Because we're at 30 here. I mean, I hate to waste racing, but if we think we can go 25, I would love to think we can run to the finish and not have to throw a yellow to get another set of tires on. But you heard Chris say, it's drying quickly. And it's easy to say to try to, a road course is big. It's 2 miles. You go left, you go right. There's normally some wet spots that you can find. There's only 1 mile of asphalt with 30-something cars out there running. There are some darker patches than lighter patches, but it's not like there's a whole lot of standing water. There's a little in the front stretch, but it's not in a position where I think you could get there at speed. Marty.
Steve, let's chat with Adam Stevens. Number one, the tires finally came off. I know Bell wanted them on the stop before. Were you happy with the wear you've seen?
Yeah, they look great. We didn't see any blisters or any signs of excessive heat. Something you worry about here when you have to go this long on these wet tires, but they've been holding up well. The track hasn't really dried all that much, but it's going to start drying a lot quicker.
So with 29 or so to go, or 25 or so by the time we take the green, what's your thought on the voltage issue? Concerned or not?
No, we probably got our cool shirt a little bit wet and started drawing some extra amps. As soon as we shut it off, it shot right back up.
There you go. So Adam Stevens not concerned at all for Christopher Bell. And I know our cameras don't really show it, Steve, but it's starting to get a little dark here on pit road. Rain coming as well. This is going to be an interesting final few laps.
Yeah, well, you see the choose. The top 3 went to the top, and that's because the outside lane is drying at a faster rate than the inside lane. Willing to give up rows to get to that top position.
Tyler Reddick will be on the bottom of the racetrack for this restart with Christopher Bell on his outside. Bell, the control car. Blaney will be behind him, and then Larson. How about Josh Berry in that 4? We talked about Harvick and how good he was at this racetrack. Well, Josh Berry is listening, obviously, to Rodney Childers and doing an exceptional job right now as he's going to restart inside the top 5.
He kind of used that choose for a big gain.
Can he keep the position? We're about to find out. There'll be 27 laps to go when they come back by this time. Reddick on the inside, Bell on the outside. And getting ready to enter the restart zone. Too wide for second. Here comes Larson, trying to get by Blaney. Contact made.
Still together.
Both of them way up the racetrack, and they both keep their foot in it. Blaney clears Larson. 3 wide behind them. Look at Michael McDowell in the 34.
He told us during the rain delay he wasn't going to take it easy. He was going to push.
Reddick fell all the way back, now fighting with McDowell for that 4th spot.
They're all fighting for that outside lane.
Oh, we're down now in the 32-second bracket, so only really 2.5 seconds off what the dry pace was on slicks. Blaney a little quicker than Bell for the lead.
Bubba Wallace was checked and released from the infield care center.
Drying is going to make the tires wear more and just pace. Now you're definitely abusing the tires more running at this pace. 25 laps to go.
Will they last 25? That's the question now.
Well, saw Bell running down the straightaway looking for wet. Trying to cool those tires off, but it's a lot of racing left to go.
And a lot of dry track down the backstretch. Blaney stays in it. Bell looking around for some moisture. Marty.
And Rick, I think that's an important point that Jeff just brought up a moment ago. Stevie Reed, spotter for Christopher Bell, said you're going to have to find some wet. So clearly track drying very quickly. And Jeff, how much will you have to change your line? Not so much for lap time, but in search of some wet conditions.
I think that's the whole game right now, is you have to constantly be looking where is the dry lane, and it's going to evolve as these 23 laps go by.
Brakes heating up. You see him glowing for Christopher Bell. The 15 gets up into the wall here.
Casgrala.
One of the New Englanders in the field from Boston, Massachusetts. Bell has a 0.8 of a second lead over Blaney. Bell continuing to run that higher line through 3 and 4, and it's starting to dry a little bit more. That's what we heard out of Adam Stevens. And the track's going to dry quicker.
You see right there the 41 car just pushing the 11 kind of out of the groove, saying, hey, I want this outside lane. Not even running to the bottom of the racetrack, willing to move him up.
And they're 20 to go. Hocevar on the outside, trying to hang on to that spot as a 41 moves to his inside with Ryan Preece. A little contact made there. Preece up the racetrack, pushing Hocevar even further up.
Oh, good save. You can see what's happening. Just willingness to drive to the door of somebody and just door them and move them out of the lane so you can have the drive.
Hocevar, a big slide there. And he slides again on corner exit. Contact made. Austin Cindric now trying to make a pass here. And Larson looks like he's off the pace. What's going on, Marty?
He gives up a spot to Michael McDowell. He just radioed to Cliff Daniels. Right rear completely gone now. This is an effect of the track drying so quickly. Cliff Daniels said, if you can hang on, hang on. But if you need to come to us, we're ready.
Hocevar slides, and the caution comes out.
I saw several drivers there starting to really struggle with their cars. That leads me to believe that they are indeed wearing these tires out.
So now we're in that very awkward spot of, is it dry enough for slicks?
I don't see that.
I'll put your eyes on it now, I hope.
We just heard, put dries on it, I hope.
Yeah, just saw Hocevar all over the racetrack. Even before this caution, that was a super early spin getting into the corner. This was a little bit earlier. You see Preece just saying, hey, I'm going to go up here in this dry zone, and if that means I push you out of the lane, that's what I'm going to do. Trying to recover in the throttle, just pushing hard. I don't know how that wasn't a bigger wreck. And then right here, just around it goes. That was an eventful few laps.
And this has been quite a learning experience, from what they're doing on the racetrack to the procedures on and off pit road to the communication between NASCAR, the competitors. It's this very awkward line, like it's dry down the backstretch. I can't tell from here if it's dry in the corner or not. It looks wet.
Yeah, it looks wet. If you look at this, if you look at that seam right above that, the old asphalt and the new asphalt, it's a little bit of a drying lane, but all that's wet. You can see a little bit of drying, but that is not ready for slicks.
So there's a great possibility this race is going to end with only 16 laps to go on these wet weather tires, whether it be these or them letting them come to pit road and put another set on. Marty.
Rick, that's the debate right now. Is the track ready for slick tires? Kyle Larson thinks so. Listen in.
Now it's time to put on dry tires, right, for the field?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's dry.
And here comes the verdict from NASCAR. They're saying when they open the pits, quickie yellow, Steve, no tire change. So Larson said right now his right rear feels honestly flat.
So this is the only part, and I don't have a better answer, but this is the only part I don't like about our current situation with wets on the oval is NASCAR's trying to figure out, you know, the right way to change tires, and it isn't the same for everyone because people's cars handle differently. So, I mean, that's something that I think we're going to learn as you see John Hunter. He goes all the way through the grass. I don't hate that idea, actually. There's a lot of moisture there. Probably cools his tires off pretty quickly.
We're going to get destroyed even in 15 laps if we go out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, Xfinity couldn't even make it 10 yesterday. Well, see, that's the problem. You already have laps on tires. I really think the thing to do here is stop and put more tires on. I think it's equal for everybody if you do that. The track is drying quickly. You already have worn these tires off, and it's going to dry more, and they're going to wear more.
And I could even see if they said, hey, we're going to put our last set on of rain or wet tires, and we're going to run 5 caution laps. And we're going to say, we know they should be able to run 10 in the dry. If you run really hard, you might burn it off, but we feel as a driver, you can make it 10. Like, you physically have the ability to run 10. We know you probably won't like to, but I mean, that way you're at least giving everybody an opportunity to get to the finish.
Yeah, and from a driver's standpoint, I didn't know I had to save tire. Right. I didn't know I had to run all the way to the end on this tire, right? So, you know, if you tell me, hey, this tire is going to wear out, you have to save it, then I can do that. But I didn't know we were.
So maybe not even burn 5 off. Maybe make it even more of a challenge for you, Jeff, and say, no, you have to run all 13 or all 12 or whatever's left. But then, to your
I'd rather
point,
have that.
You know about it.
Yeah, I just need to know.
Well, pit road is open this time, but at this point, you're not allowed to change tires, so I don't think we're going to take very many takers.
I mean, I just don't believe that Kyle Larson, and I saw other cars really starting to lose a lot of speed. Kyle Larson isn't saying that just for the benefit of trying to get a yellow for his condition. He is feeling what he's feeling. Marty.
Well, they tried on the radio. Cliff Daniels was politicking to NASCAR to give the teams the option to change tires back to slicks or not. Listen in. Actually, we don't have that radio, but he said, hey, I would love the option for teams here, Steve, for us to go to slicks if we can. And then they said, Kyle, we cannot pit because only if we have a flat right rear tire truly will they allow us to pit. The camera showed no flat right rear tire for Kyle Larson, but according to him, that tread's absolutely gone.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, like you said, Jeff, I believe what Kyle Larson is saying. But we're just going to see how they manage it. I imagine we're going to get one to go here at some point. The track seems like it's ready. It's cleaned up.
So let's look at the racetrack. They're saying it looks dry to them, where you could put slicks on, but I don't see that. I see dry areas, but you know, right there you can see it's dry, but below it and above it is wet. So this is not a time that you could put slicks on. But it is also a time that it is going to wear the wets out at an extremely high rate.
Exactly.
Now 13 to go. And they still have not gone through the chews, so it will be...
Man, I put another set of damps on.
There we're hearing the possibility exists. They're going to tell them to put another set of the wet tires on. Pit road is open, and we're hearing everyone is to change tires to another set of wet tires.
Yeah, so basically everybody gets to roll down pit road, make adjustments. You don't lose position. You're putting a set of wets on. So, Jeff, I think at this point, if I'm a crew chief, I'm saying, hey, we're not going to see slicks. So this has to make it to the finish. So if I think a little less air may help that right rear wear, or you as a driver needs to try to maybe baby the right rear a little bit, I'm going to, you know, I think at this point we're committed. This is what we're doing. Really no more, more question about how this race is going to finish. We're going to finish on wets, on the last set of wets.
Yeah, and I also am assuming as a driver that NASCAR is going to let this caution go a little bit longer so I don't have too many laps to run, Marty.
So, Jeff, while some teams are happy to see this fresh set of wet tires going on, Adam Stevens said, why are we making this decision? Of course, his driver, Christopher Bell, was out front here. He asked him, do you want any changes? He said, I could stand to be just a little bit freer on entry, not on exit. The other thing we're going up against, Kim, here is darkness here in New Hampshire, which is coming pretty quick.
Yeah, Marty. Well, for the 34 of Michael McDowell, he said, I need a little more drive in. It's not bad, though. Little tight, and exactly what Steve said. The right rear felt a little soft for Michael McDowell. They're going to make a slight air pressure adjustment for him on that. As you see Ryan Blaney in the bottom of that 3 box. Ryan saying, I'm still super tight. I cannot rotate. Air pressure adjustment for him as well.
All right. It will be a shootout. They have wet weather tires on. Everyone on a level playing field, and the restart is next. A sprint to the finish. When they come back by this time, it'll be 10 to go. So they will restart with at least 9 or less to go here at New Hampshire to find out who gets the win. Being told to choose here.
I mean, I think this outside line is going to be the preferred. 2 to the bottom, 3 to the bottom. Hate to give up that many rows to take the top, but
yeah,
it's just drier up there.
And Marty, you know, Marty mentioned the darkness. I didn't think it was that bad, but the more, I mean, in just the last couple laps, Marty, it seems like it's getting darker quick.
Yeah, it's certainly getting dark here on pit road. Kyle Larson talked about his right rear felt flat, Steve. That is blistering all the way around that right rear tire for Kyle Larson. That last run, 10 laps, Rick. So going to be interesting to see if these tires can survive these final few laps.
And what track is drier?
Yeah, what happens, look, that tire, it's just like grabbing a hot pan on the stove, right? When your skin kind of blisters up in that one spot, rubber does the same thing. It gets too hot, it creates a bubble, the bubble pops, and it leaves those areas where the rubber's missing. You just lose surface area of the tire, you have way less grip.
All right, Michael McDowell, we know that he needs a win to make these playoffs, and here he is on the front row. What is he willing to do?
Already told us he was going to be aggressive. And he's actually going to rub up against the 20 of the bell right here for the restart. All right, 9 laps to go. And the 34 gets into the 12. They slide, and they're going to spin in front of the field.
Walk it down here. Walk it down.
You mentioned aggressive.
wasn't enough traction.
And just not understanding how much grip there is, really. I mean, you're trying to step it up. 9 laps to go in the race, a chance to contend for a championship, just trying to take it the next level, and the grip just wasn't there. McDowell with a good launch, drives in the corner, and he is in trouble from the time he entered the corner. That car never took a set, never had grip. Little contact there, I think, with Haley, maybe. Not sure if it was substantial, but yeah, the car never, ever was in the racetrack, and that is going to make that outside lane even more popular on this restart.
And after seeing that, I know Kyle Larson wanted slicks, but if wet tires lost traction that quickly, I'm not sure that slicks would even made the corner.
No, this track's nowhere near ready for slicks.
How about the transformation that Josh Berry has done? When they went from slicks to wet weather tires, Berry was in 20th, and now Josh Berry is currently scored 3rd.
And to your point, Rick, there's no strategy, there's no this. It's just, you know, controlled pit stop to passing cars. Now they have Berry scored, it looks like, in 2nd.
All right, Kim, what about Ryan Blaney in that 12?
Well, he remained calm for a while, did get a little heated, but relative to what we've heard from him on the radio in the past, I would consider it calm for Ryan, just asking what Michael McDowell was thinking, like he's just gonna run it in there and clear me. Used some choice words for Michael McDowell, but again, relatively calm, all considering, and you have to think about what that win last week did for him. You know, if they don't get that win, it's a very different situation here in the closing laps as he was running runner-up. So a big relief last week. I know they wanted a solid win here this afternoon, but you have to think how different it would have been if he was still searching for that first win here today.
And remember, we saw impressive runs out of Berry at Iowa on the short track, and drivers at Stewart-Haas Racing, knowing that they're trying to figure out where they're going to race next year, and Berry, Briscoe, both in the top 5 right now.
Haley, I can't say enough about Justin Haley. He's still there in 6th.
Yeah.
We talked to him, you know, about under the red flag, and it's just what a run for Haley.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he's having a good run. Harrison Burton, Todd Gilliland, all these guys are super hungry, needing a win.
We couldn't listen in to the 12 radio, but maybe we can hear something on the 34 radio.
12 rolling to you here. I mean, obviously I didn't mean to. Happens, man. Had to go for it, that's what we did.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. If I'm Blaney, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
And I do agree that Michael didn't go in there and wreck him on purpose, but that doesn't make Blaney feel any better.
Yeah, we talked about the 4 of Berry, how many spots he's picked up. Also his teammate Briscoe, you know, he was 23rd before they went to these wet weather conditions. So Stewart-Haas Racing, you know, I don't want to take it away from the drivers, but they have to have cars that could do it. Both of them drove to the front, so got to give that team credit, understanding the adjustments they needed to make and the drivers taking advantage of it.
The amount of positions changed in the last 50 laps in going forward and back, I mean, it's crazy, the movement within the field.
I mentioned it was going to be a sprint to the finish before. Think about it now, as we're getting ready to choose right here. That will leave 4 laps of racing for these teams.
Top 3 went to the top. The next 3 went to the bottom.
That puts Chase Briscoe on the front row. Parker.
Right, Rick, and they just had a discussion about this on his team radio. Take a listen what they said.
Yeah, I think if you choose the bottom, you just have to accept the fact that you're going to have to feed them a fender.
A feed him a fender is code for basically move that car up the track if you have to. Elbows out here for Chase Briscoe in the 14.
Let's not forget how this weekend started, and it started with Christopher Bell dropping the nugget that Chase, I use in quotes, we don't know Chase Briscoe, but that's the rumor, should be driving the 19 next year. So this will be an interesting way to start that relationship.
And, well, does he go down to the apron? That's the other thing.
Great point.
That's drier than the center of the racetrack, what we saw earlier. All right, it's going to be 4 laps. Bell on the outside. Chase Briscoe on the inside of row 1. He slides up the track. Briscoe still trying to find a little bit of track and grip. Bell pulling away. Josh Berry, Chase Briscoe running 2nd and 3rd.
Look at this. Now everybody running that 3rd lane.
3 laps to go.
What you're worried about now is you try to make a pass on the bottom. Is there enough grip? Trying to make a pass may actually cost you positions.
But look how much Josh Berry closed in right there on corner entry. I thought he was going to miss the middle of the corner. He didn't. That is a big gain for the 4 car. At least 2 car lengths just in 1 and 2. We'll see if he can do it again. Oh, Brad Keselowski has spun around, still under green. No caution yet.
And he still hasn't refired. He's trying. He can't get it refired. Will the caution come out? Still not rolling.
He's rolling now.
Caution, caution, caution.
As soon as he started rolling, they threw it. They just were afraid he was going to be sitting there when the leader came up to him. So NASCAR tried their best to not throw that caution, but ultimately just felt like they had to. I think that was the right call.
Overtime, guys.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Marty mentioned it a couple times, and I didn't think darkness was going to be a factor. But, when you look out the window here, everything that's illuminated, the lights on the pace car, there's some digital screens on the front of the pit boxes. They clearly stand out, which tells me that darkness is coming very quickly.
It's after 8 o'clock here in Loudon, New Hampshire.
That looks very similar to what we just saw. A couple cautions, the last few cautions have been with cars on the bottom of the racetrack.
And we could see from here, as the 6 was trying to fire the fire out the pipes, he was not sitting there waiting on the yellow. He was trying to get going.
He was definitely trying.
He did not
fire out of both pipes.
All right, trying to cool those tires down.
So clearly the outside lane is preferred on this restart. How far up will someone get to go? Because we just saw that most of the top 3 picked the top. I don't know why they won't do that again. I just don't think Josh Berry picking the bottom, I just don't think that he can make the grip he needs to try to make this pass.
The question is 2 laps enough to make the pass from behind? I mean, I agree with you. I don't think there's a pathway from the bottom, but is that your only chance? Is a mistake by Bell?
Yeah, and the fact that it's only 2 laps, even if it doesn't work out great, how many spots are you going to lose because it's only 2 laps? It's probably, I think some of it boils down to what are you willing to do, right? And if you could leave the restart zone on Christopher Bell's bumper, can you move him a little bit, get him up out of the groove? I'm telling you, last week at race, Josh Berry was exceptionally aggressive. Anytime he got underneath a car, he was willing to put the door to him and move him out of the lane. We saw him be willing to do it earlier today. Multiple times on these rain tires, he was willing to push a guy completely out of the groove, and it's worked for him. Nobody's made him pay for doing it. So that's in his playbook because it's been working the last 2 weeks.
And there's a little bit of positioning even coming into the restart zone because, Bell is trying to not restart out against the wall. He wants to run in the middle of the dry. Looks like he's trying to get the lower lane to have their lefts kind of in the damp.
These things don't happen by accident, do they, Steve? Everything is thought about.
Rodney Childers, he's not worried. He's got Josh Berry behind the wheel.
Well, then let's, it's dark. We're on wets.
Oh, look at the radar.
And the green just kind of popped up. And the reason this, listen, if you're watching, they're already on wets. What's this matter? NASCAR has said they will not run with falling rain because of visibility. So if we get a rain shower, even though it's just going to dampen the track as we see one to go, and here's the choose, that could end it. You mentioned it, Barry chooses the top, but Briscoe, I think Briscoe from third has to take the front.
Oh, yeah. No question.
He does. It's going to be 2 laps. Can they go 2 laps before it rains, before it gets too dark, or before they wreck again? Marty.
First career win and a playoff berth right in front of Josh Berry. What does he think about this restart? Listen in.
What now, Batman? I'm going to do it. I won't be able to sleep tonight if I don't.
I won't sleep tonight if I don't. I wonder what he's saying. Is he saying I'm going to take the top, or I might be willing to move Bell? Jeff, this will test your morals, but this may be their shot to make the playoffs right here.
Yeah, whenever this playoff format was introduced, that's exactly what it did. It tested your morals, because to win a race puts you in the playoffs, and now you have a shot to win the championship. And the question is, would he be willing to start on the outside or push him out of the way? I think it's both. I think that Josh Berry is willing to do whatever it takes here.
Well, Josh Berry this might be a job application, remember. Still looking for a ride for next year.
It's overtime, presented by Credit One Bank. 2 laps to go in the USA Today 301 from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Bell, a great launch. He's got 2 car lengths, now 3 in front of Josh Berry.
Yeah, Berry just couldn't get the power down. Briscoe got to his left side. SHR teammates side by side for second. That's going to allow Bell to kind of use every bit of the racetrack he wants or needs.
Berry fighting on the outside. Bell's going to get the white flag. One more time around.
Next flag will end it. So even if a caution comes out, this will be the final chance at it. Christopher Bell won yesterday in the Xfinity Series race, Rick. He looked good in the dry. He's looked good in the wet. Christopher Bell, still the man to beat in New Hampshire.
Get out the broom. The fight for second continues between Stewart-Haas drivers. A little contact made there, but it's going to be Bell who sweeps the weekend. Christopher Bell, what a day he has done. Bell wins in New Hampshire.
How about that, boys? Loud sweep 2024. Only one man can do the double. That's you, buddy. Great job. Great stinking job, fellas. I'm proud of you guys.
Good job, Bill. Got them both.
This race had everything. I don't even know where to start, Rick.
6 hours.
Yeah.
6-hour race.
And worth the wait. I didn't think we were going to see wet tires and didn't know what to expect. Drivers should be applauded for the show they delivered. Truex coming up to congratulate his teammate.
What a day. What a weekend for Christopher Bell. Yesterday, 4 wins in the Xfinity Series in his 4 starts. Today, he does something that we didn't think we'd ever see. After 219 laps, they put wet weather tires on these cars and sent them back out there on a wet racetrack. And Bell prevails in New Hampshire. Coach Gibbs. All smiles for Christopher Bell. He's getting familiar with these finish line interviews.
Habits are hard to break, Rick, right? That is now 7 New Hampshire wins and 11 National Series starts for Christopher Bell at this racetrack. You told me you would be good with the wet weather tires, but did you think you would be the car to beat?
You never know. You never know how this thing's going to shake out whenever you change so many things like that, and the adverse conditions. I personally love adverse conditions because you're always trying to think outside the box. And you know, whenever we went back out, I was feeling around, and it felt like the normal Loudon groove was really, really slippery. So I tried to just run down or run up, and Adam put the tune on this thing, and it was turning really good. So this is really cool because Ream has won a lot here, and we always have Watts on the car too. That is just really, really special. And guys, it says this one didn't get shortened.
Hey, you're not a fan of the Lobster. Are you going to be cool with that? It's 25 pounds this year.
I'm going to pick that sucker up, absolutely.
All right, he wouldn't really want to pick it up before, Rick, but I tell you what, this race seems so good. And guess who is now second on the playoff grid? Christopher Bell and the 20 team just 1 point behind Kyle Larson.
And Marty, he mentioned the race didn't get shorted. It actually got lengthened. This one was 305 laps. And in the end, Christopher Bell gets the win. Bell wins again in New Hampshire. The sweep continues for Christopher Bell. He is currently second now in the playoff standings. What a day.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of NASCAR Broadcasting. NASCAR would like to thank all of our fans for your support, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.